Okay, guys. Tell me you can see me, please. Oh, yay. Oh, thank you, Charles. Okay. Oh, you guys are the greatest. Thank you for bearing with me through that. It's kind of my fault. At like the last 10 minutes of Mike's stream, I thought, you know what? I've got a clip that will be great to get this started off. And so I real quick edited it, and it was rendering at the time when Mike finished up, and my laptop could not handle both the Clipchamp program and the StreamYard program at the same time. So it crashed, like hard crashed. So, but the good news is I am going to start us off with something amazing. And then we're going to go into the KloosterFrick trial. It's the first day of it. The first couple segments of it, they're just laying a foundation and getting to know the parties and stuff. So there's not so much in it that's, gonna be juicy yet, but that comes later. And for those of you who did see part of it over on Mike's channel, you know what I mean. It gets weird. It really does. So let's start this off. Let's start this off with this one.
Good morning.
These are case numbers 3A0284364 and 3A0562473. Both of these matters are on for arraignment. And is your true and correct name London Lydia Lee?
Yes, that's my birth name.
All right. And what is your date of birth?
February the 15th, 1964.
Okay. Mr. Gates, you may proceed.
In case ending 473, you've been charged with the crime of driving while license suspended or revoked in the second degree, alleged to have occurred in Normandy Park, Washington on or about July 23rd, 2021. Contrary to RCW 46.20.342, subsection 1B, this is a gross misdemeanor punishable by up to 364 days in jail and a $5,000 fine. In case ending 364, you've been charged with two crimes, both alleged to have occurred in Des Moines, Washington on or about October 19th, 2023. For count one, you've been charged with the crime of driving while license suspended or revoked in the second degree, contrary to the same RCW and subject to the same penalties as the last. And in count two, you've been charged with the crime of operating a motor vehicle without an ignition interlock device, contrary to RCW 46.20.720. This is also correction. Contrary to RCW 46.20.740, this is also a gross misdemeanor punishable by up to 364 days in jail and a $5,000 fine.
And Your Honor, I went over my client's rights as well as their charges. She indicated to me she had no further questions. I'll ask to enter a plea of not guilty. We'll also be asking for direct appointment as she receives food stamps.
Okay, in case ending 364, the court reviewed incident number 232827. I do find probable cause to detain on both counts. On case ending 473, I did review the sworn statement of the citing officer, and I do find probable cause to detain on that count. Ms. Lee, I will appoint the law firm of Stewart, McNichols, and Harmel to represent you in this matter.
So what is your decision, Your Honor?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
And let me hear first from the city.
Your Honor, the city recommends that Ms. Lee be held on $5,000 bail on both cases, and that she be ordered to abide by standard driving conditions.
So you are doing both of my cases here when I've got one in Des Moines and one in Auburn? And I mean,
No,
You're gonna get rid of both of these today. Don't play with me.
Iowa.
no, Ms. Lee,
That's
the
what you're
Auburn
doing.
case we can't hear today. That's not part of my jurisdiction. So what we're hearing today
So
are.
that's
two
what
different
he's
cases.
saying though.
You may have another.
Let's
case
get our
on
facts
them.
straight. We will not be driving and I'm pleading guilty.
Well, you're entering a plea of not guilty.
I'm entering a plea of guilty.
Mr. Pedrocha down?
I had
That's
borderline
what he
1077.
advised.
Okay.
And
that's-
then you gave me another lawyer. I'm entering
Okay.
a plea of
Okay.
guilty today.
all right.
And that's
I had-
all I'm gonna tell you.
Buckle up, guys, because it gets better by getting worse.
Okay, I had borderline
Get your
1077
shit
concerns, but it I had borderline 1077 concerns.
No.
The conversation went smoothly, but
You get
I
your shit
think a
together.
1077 might be
And
warranted.
bitch,
I
you
see
get
that there
yours
has been
together.
some in
'Cause
the
I went to
past.
Tacoma and this shit was
This
dismissed
court
over
is
there.
familiar
Now you
with
fixed,
the-
you got
my-
one
both
fucking
of your
case.
time. I don't
If
know.
that, and
Mr.
one
Lee-
of them was set up.
But we did have a
Bitch,
prior.
that's what you should be saying.
Okay, Ms. Lee,
Okay.
are you
Don't
gonna
play
let?
with me, bitch.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you. That's inappropriate.
Okay. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
That's not your fault. Let
The
me just yeah, put the form in. I just want to have a little further conversation with her, see if I can get her to calm down a little bit. Okay, you're going to need to unmute yourself if you want to speak, Miss Lee.
Spoiler
But you
alert.
can't call me
Can't get
names,
her to
no
calm down.
profanity. Can you take the mouse and click the button to unmute so I can hear you? Because I can't hear you right now. If you have the mouse by the computer, go ahead. No, you can't. It's not a touch screen. Is there a mouse anywhere there? You should be able to just click it. There you go. Okay, Ms. Lee, I want to hear what you have to say, but I can't do it when everybody's talking over each other. So you're saying that you have a case in Auburn, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, now let me just take.
Excuse me. You slow down if you want to talk to me before I mute you again, because I know just what the hell is going on with me. I'm not gonna play your in the dungeon bullshit like you're flying off somewhere. You listen, lady. I know what the fuck is going on with me.
Okay, Ms. Lee, I'm trying to understand what is going on. I don't doubt. you
Yeah,
know
you're
what's
trying
going
to
on with you.
understand, and he should know. Sitting up there giving me another lawyer.
All
when
right.
I got one sitting right there. Now listen to him,
No,
and
you're
I'm gonna
not.
mute you.
I'm not trying to give you another lawyer. I appointed.
No, I know you. I know you're not. Now handle your business up there.
All right, so it looks like King County District Court. I don't see a case out of Auburn in the criminal history
You know
that
what,
I'm
Your Honor?
Yeah.
He pled not guilty, so I'm gonna go with what he said and set this matter over.
okay.
And
That's
then
fine.
that should be settled, okay? Let's don't dig around into something that you don't know what you're talking about. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, you're sitting over there in that Tacoma courthouse. I'm gonna kill one of this funky ass bitch. You better get your shit together up in here.
Making death threats to the judge is definitely not a good idea.
Are you done, Miss Lee?
Yes, I'm done.
All right. I will go ahead and sign that order.
We don't
Almost
need to
done.
be driving. Too many high-speed chases, and it's too much fun for these nappy-headed niggas.
Okay, Ms. Lee, I don't want to have to mute you, but I need
You
you to
better,
make
I'm
sure.
gonna get you.
No, Miss Lee, don't talk like
Let me
that.
tell you something.
I
You
need
go ahead and lift, you better get up off me if you from that Tacoma courthouse.
I'm not. I'm in Des Moines Courthouse.
You can, don't play me, lady. I've been in front of you before.
That's right.
I'm
You
done
have in Des
talking to
Moines.
you.
You have indeed been.
I've signed that order, Your Honor.
I think they recognize the need for mental health evaluation because her actions are not normal. So the judge is being very patient, and yes, it's inappropriate.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, I just need to
I'm sorry,
review
guys.
the order. So I'll set the return date. Let's see the time.
I was just saying that the judge recognizes the need for mental health evaluation. Holding her in contempt is not going to do any good for her. The judge knows she's not fit, so the judge is being extremely patient. They're signing the orders for the mental health evaluations. Giving her more jail time for contempt or giving her a fine when she's already on food stamps, and it's not going to do any good. So the mental health evaluation is the route that they have to go. But this judge is fantastic. I give her a lot of props for putting up with what she's putting up with. I mean, the woman's already made death threats, made some very concerning statements on the record. So the judge is just taking it in stride.
Would begin Monday, so. I'll set it for November 6th. Oops. All right, so Ms. Lee, I am going to order that you have an evaluation. They're in custody. I've signed the order, and for the attorneys, I am going to make a no bail hold, and that is based on her lengthy history of DUI, and in this case, continuing to
No, you're not.
operate a motor vehicle without
Okay,
a
hold on a second.
valid
Let me get back here.
license and an
I
ignition.
can't hear you, bitch. Come here.
I'm gonna
I
have to.
said I can't hear you.
Okay.
What kind of order did you just sign in
In
Tacoma?
order for you to be evaluated by a mental health evaluator.
Okay, so you want me to be evaluated by a mental health evaluator?
Correct.
When?
It will be sometime within the next 14 days, hopefully.
Okay, so you're keeping me in custody for how long?
I'm setting your next court date for November 3rd.
Okay, so you can play in here. No, that's fine.
If we receive the
because that's what you plan on
evaluation,
doing
if
in
we
the
receive
first
the
place.
evaluation next week, then we're gonna bring you back next week. We're
Yeah.
gonna bring you in sooner. Okay,
Depends on when the
if I have a
evaluation
bail,
happens.
Excuse me, you're fired. If I have a bail, you're gonna get me out of here before that.
all
If
right,
you said it at bail, so I'm bailing out. Okay.
all right. Ms.
Now
Lee,
you and Teresa can
we
get
have
off my
time.
fucking business, bitch. You think
Ms.
you're letting
Lee,
her steal, bitch.
Can you call the officer?
Yeah,
We're
I'll give
doing
him a
this
call.
hearing, Ms. Lee.
Call him now.
I tried to give her tremendous latitude, but I just can't allow that to go on. I will stand by until we are ready with the next person.
Well, there you have the opener. At some point, the officer just comes in and she walks out. There was nothing exciting after that moment. But let's get the main event going. This is going to be probably I'm expecting 3-day event. I run into a little bit of an issue with storage capacity. Doing like a 2-hour video is about 15 gigabytes. And so I have to edit a couple of the clips together and export them, and then stream them, delete what I've got, and then do the next set. But I did acquire the entire hearing before it was removed. So I have it all. I have to do some heavy editing on some of it because they show videos with children in them. So I have to cover faces and stuff. But you know what? I love you guys so much, and I'm going to do it for you.
All right, this is case number 2317423DM Kloosterman versus Kloosterman. Today's date is October 17th, 2023. This is date and time set for our hearing on custody-related issues. Ms. Lentz, you and your client are top left to me. If you both state your names in whatever order you choose, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Elena Lentz for the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman, who's seated beside me.
State your name, ma'am, please.
Jennifer Kloosterman.
Thank you. And Ms. Schmelzer, same with your client?
Yeah, I don't want to beg, but if anybody does have an external hard drive that, you know, an extra one or something, I absolutely would appreciate it. YouTube took away my ability to monetize until January at the earliest. So that's why you can't do memberships or super chats or anything like that. I had it all set up, and then they determined the videos that I had done that I really honestly only did them to learn how to edit and send to Mike so he could stream them. Not all of those got taken down, and they determined that my content was just reused content. So my bad. I screwed up. I didn't get all of them taken down from the ones that I had sent to Mike. But because of that, I can't monetize. I do in the About tab, and I'll put it in the description. I do have Cash App. So if anybody does want to send me, you know, a tip, I've got PayPal tip jar and I've got Cash App. If anybody wants to send me something for me to be able to continue to do this stuff and to get the equipment that I need, like the external hard drives, you know, mouse, mic, stuff like that, you know, the handy stuff for streaming. I would appreciate it. But more than anything, if you could like and subscribe, and I will continue to bring you amazing content, whether I'm monetized or not.
Lori Schmelter on behalf of the defendant's counter plaintiff, Kevin Kloosterman, who is also appearing via Zoom remotely from my office.
Kevin Kloosterman.
Thank you. All right. We do have two objections. Both parties have objected to the temporary order. Because plaintiff filed first, we're going to start with proofs from Ms. Lentz and her client. I have reviewed the file, so you're welcome to provide opening statements if you'd like. So we'll start with Ms. Lentz. You could just let me know if you want to do an opening statement. If so, just go ahead and proceed.
I'll waive your opening statement, Your Honor.
Okay. And Ms. Schmelzer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just briefly, my client is seeking to maintain the temporary order at this time. It is joint physical and legal custody with a week on, week off schedule. These children are between the ages of 10 and 15. Both parents have been exceedingly involved in these children's lives. In fact, these children, and the testimony we'll hear in the next 2 days, will be that these children are highly involved in extracurricular activities, social activities, family activities, and both parents are present and supportive of these activities. We believe that the evidence will show the established custodial environment is with both parents, and the law is to change that, which it is our understanding plaintiff is seeking to change that, is clear and convincing evidence. In our opinion, we don't think she has clear and convincing evidence to change it, and therefore we are seeking the award of joint legal and physical custody. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lentz, your first witness, please.
Your Honor, I believe there's 2 people in the waiting room. I'm not sure who you said, Tammy or Terry. Can I see who that is?
Sure. Yeah, well, I can tell you. Sure. Yeah. So I have a Garrett DeVree, Devree, and then just a Tammy, no last name.
Okay.
I can bring. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you call? I just don't recognize the name Tammy, but maybe they're using someone else's phone or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
For the record, Tammy is not connecting audio. Someone just popped in as well, just so you're aware. Casey Plamondon.
Okay, I can start with her, Your Honor. Well, maybe. Oh, that's Katie.
Got it. For you to have those plans and then have a period of plans and then, you know.
Good morning.
Oh, okay. Good morning. I think you're going to need to turn it up a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, this is the intimate shave trial. By the time Mike had streamed the clips that he did, I had already been following this trial, and I had been recording it for 2 days. So when he did it, I'm like, dag nabbit, he got my clip. But I had already planned on doing the whole thing, and I'm just really glad that y'all showed up for it.
Yeah. That's not normal.
Do you recognize this person, Ms. Lentz?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm all set.
Is it Tammy?
No, we're good.
No, her name is Katie Amen.
Is this the witness you'd like to call?
Yes, Your Honor. And can we request that the witnesses be sequestered in this matter?
Sure. Well, yeah, 1 second, and I'll take care of that. Let me. How do you spell her last name? I gotta type everybody's.
Amon.
Thank you. All right. Is it Ms. Amon?
This judge is a cross between John Goodman and Prince Charming from Shrek. I actually did that comparison on another video. I am really hoping that I have. Give me 2 seconds. I really want to show this to you guys if I can find it, but you got to bear with me again. Let me see if I can find something really super quick. Because I did it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. No. I don't think I saved it. Oh, darn it. I will, later on, I'll go into my Canva and I'll find it.
Yes.
And I any objection to sequestering the witnesses, Ms. Schmaltz? So the witnesses will be sequestered, just meaning before you testify or not, no witnesses are permitted to watch this YouTube.
Wisconsin
trial or be in the room, I suppose, if you have any witnesses in the Zoom boxes with you as the attorneys. I assume you don't, of course. Ms. Amon, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Lentz.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Amon, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Catherine Ann Amon, Amon.
And can you explain how you know the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman?
We are friends, neighbors, met through our children.
How long have you known the plaintiff?
About 4 years, a little over 4 years.
And can you explain how you know the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman?
In the same way, we met the same time.
Ms. Amon, how frequently would you say that you see the plaintiff on a weekly basis?
Well, depends how busy our kids are, anywhere from not at all to 2 to 3 times.
And in the times that you see the plaintiff, are her children ever present?
Yes,
Have you ever seen the plaintiff express love and affection towards her children?
of course.
And can you explain your answer?
Well, I mean, it goes from anywhere to getting kids to where they need to be on time, to hugging, to telling them that she loves them, to doing anything a mom would do, cooking, whatever it is that the kids need.
And Ms. Amon, have you seen the children reciprocate love and affection towards the plaintiff?
Of course.
From your interactions with the plaintiff, do you believe that she supports the children's education?
Absolutely.
Can you explain your answer?
Well, she's a teacher herself, so obviously she respects the education system. She's helped with homework, getting kids to parent-teacher conferences, getting kids to school on time.
Ms. Amon, have you ever seen the plaintiff discipline her children?
Of course.
From what you observed, would you characterize the plaintiff's method of discipline appropriate or inappropriate?
Appropriate.
And Ms. Amon, in the context of discipline, have you ever heard the plaintiff yell at her children?
She's not much of a yeller, but yes, she's raised her voice.
In the context of discipline, have you ever heard the defendant yell at the children?
Not really. He's also raised his voice, but in front of me, he has not yelled aggressively.
Have you ever seen the plaintiff provide food for the children?
Yes.
And can you give a specific example?
Well, I've been over there a lot and she's cooking dinner because we see each other in the evening. So yeah, grilling, she's a good cook.
Ms. Amon, have you ever seen the plaintiff provide medical care for the children?
Yeah.
And can you give a specific example?
Actually, recently, one of the children had a pretty bad headache. So we were kind of going back and forth on what we could do to help. And she was the person who was helping get through the headache.
Ms. Amon, have you ever seen the children seek comfort from the plaintiff?
Yes.
And can you give a specific example?
Kind of a funny thing. The kids go to her for hugs all the time. I mean, I've seen her wrap her arms around all 3 of her children at different times.
Ms. Amon, have you ever seen the plaintiff at one of the children's extracurricular activities, such as a sporting event, recital, concert?
Yes.
What extracurricular activities have you seen the plaintiff at?
Softball and hockey specifically.
And during those events, does the plaintiff appear engaged with what's going on?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the plaintiff offer support or encouragement to the children during these events?
Yes.
And what sort of things have you seen the plaintiff do to offer support and encouragement?
Like most parents, she will clap and she will cheer and she will say good job and she will video or take pictures.
In the context of extracurriculars, have you ever seen the plaintiff berate the children for their performance?
Can you just define what you mean by berate as far as be aggressive or angry?
Make them feel bad if they're not playing well?
Objection,
no.
speculation. How would she know if the children feel bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, could you?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to herd my cat here. And I went to pause it and I hit the back button. So give me 1 second golly, I'm good at this. But I was going to say, what do you mean? How does she know if the children felt bad? You can tell when a kid feels bad. It's not rocket science. Yes, I have a very helpful cat. This is my grand kitty, Earl Grey the cat. He is amazing. I love him.
No.
In the context of extracurricular activities, have you ever seen the defendant berate the children for their performance?
Not specifically, no.
Can you explain your answer?
I think just between the two of them, Jen watches more, and Kevin will get more into the game. So I don't know that he would berate the children, but he definitely gets more excited or into the game. And I'm talking specifically hockey, but I mean, no, he have never seen him berate the children.
And Ms. Amon, aside from attending the children's extracurriculars, do you know if the plaintiff is involved with extracurriculars in any other capacity other than just a...
It's a divorce hearing with custody modification, is my understanding. So, I think if I remember correctly, it's the husband that's not happy. But I might be wrong on that. But I do know this entire thing is supposed to only be about custody, and you will hear the husband's lawyer making objections to that effect on some of the content.
Pending.
Well, Jen does the fall program for Central High School, so that's a huge undertaking that she does for the kids, not just her own. In hockey, I don't know what her title is, but I know she's in charge of organizing a lot of banners or signs, food, whatever needs to be done. I think she makes sure that happens.
Ms. Amon, what is the fall program?
Like the fall, like if you go to a sporting event and you go into, say, the football game, you can buy a program and it's for Central High School. You open it up and it has the track and not track because that's not a fall program, but cross country, football, whatever the fall sports are. And she puts that together for the high school, for the athletic department.
Mike
Would
ran
you characterize the plaintiff as an involved parent or an uninvolved parent?
Involved.
Can you explain why you say that?
Because of all the things that we just talked about.
And Ms. Amon, in the times that you have seen the plaintiff interact with her children, have you ever observed any behavior from the plaintiff that you would deem concerning?
No.
Ms. Amon, from your interactions and observations with the plaintiff, defendant, their family in general, what parent would you say is more responsible for day-to-day care?
Objection. She's asking her to draw the conclusion that's for the court to draw the conclusion of which parent is the primary caregiver. This is a roundabout way of asking about the established custodial environment. She's asking a lay witness to draw that conclusion.
Your Honor, I believe that the plaintiff or the witness can answer this question. She just said she's been super involved with the family for 4 years and can make the decision of what parent she sees do these activities more frequently.
Yeah, I think it's just more of an observation. I think there's more than enough foundation that she's been around this family to let us know what she has seen. So you can answer, in other words, Ms.
Okay. From my perspective, Jen is around more, but to be fair, Kevin's job takes him away a lot. So I think the nature of his job has him working later hours or in the winter odd hours. So I see Jen do more, but that's because of his job and what he's trying to provide.
And Ms. Amon, have you ever heard the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman, speak negatively about the defendant in front of the children?
No.
Have you ever heard the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman, speak negatively about the plaintiff in front of the minor children?
No.
And Ms. Amon, to your knowledge, has the defendant ever been physically violent towards the plaintiff?
Not in front of me.
Thank you, Ms. Amon. I have no further questions for you.
Even though the witnesses are saying that they have never seen this type of behavior, it's still kind of a precursory setup to what to expect later. So It's interesting that no one has ever seen either of them act out.
Ms. Schmelzer, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, just briefly, Ms. Amen, my name's Lori Schmelzer, and I am the attorney for Kevin Kloosterman. I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions here on some of the questions you were asked. Have you seen Kevin Kloosterman also take care of getting the children to and from school, picking them up, and transporting them to their extracurricular events?
I can't say that I've seen him to drop the kids at school because I'm not with them in those hours. I've been told that he does that, so I'm assuming he is. I have seen him go to hockey or take them to practice. Absolutely.
Is he an involved and present father?
I've seen him at events. Yes.
Have you seen him at more of the extracurricular events than not at the extracurricular events?
It's hard to say because I'm not at everything.
At the ones you're at, do you typically see both parents there?
When we were talking softball, sometimes, I mean, I'm not standing next to him, so I assume he's there somewhere. Hockey, yes. If I was at a hockey game, he was there.
And you said you're not around in the mornings when the children are going to school. Is that correct?
Of course, I'm not at their house in the mornings.
Okay, your testimony that you've observed Miss Kloosterman ensuring the children get to school then is not based on firsthand observation.
Well, what I just told you, they both have told me they take kids to school. So yes, Jen will take kids to school as well as Kevin.
Okay,
I wasn't
I'm
asked
asking
him
about,
earlier.
yeah, sure. I'm asking about your firsthand observations, what you've actually seen. You have no idea actually who takes the children to or from school because you
Sure.
don't see it yourself personally.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
There was, but I'm not sure if through the entire
No further
time.
questions.
Any redirect? Thank you, ma'am. You're all set.
Great. Thanks.
And then I can go over who's in the waiting room again.
Thank
if
you.
you'd like.
I'd appreciate it.
Yep. Garrett DeVries and Casey Plamondon. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Let's go with Casey.
Okay. Casey? Oops.
I've done a hearing of his before, so go back and check
Figure out my technology, sorry.
videos.
Good morning. You can
Good
hear me okay?
morning.
Okay. Excellent. So you've been called as a witness in this matter by Ms. Lentz and her client. She will have some questions for you. And then if she chooses to, Ms. Schmelzer may have some questions for you, okay?
Okay.
All right. So if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Lentz.
Thank you, Honor. Casey, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Casey Plamondon, Plamondon.
And Miss Plum, do you mind if I call you Casey?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Casey, can you explain how you know the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman?
I know Jen for about 6 years. We met when our sons were playing hockey together.
And how long have you known the plaintiff then?
6 years.
Do you know the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman?
I do.
How do you know the defendant?
In the same manner, we met through our son's hockey team.
And Casey, if you had to estimate, how frequently would you say that you typically see the plaintiff on a weekly basis?
I think that's going to end up being day 2. Most likely. Like I said, this is going to be a 3-day event. And, you know, if you really, really want to see that clip, I encourage you. I'll put a link to Mike's video in the description when all is said and done. So if anybody wants to go back and check just that little clip out, they can. Otherwise, stick around for the whole ride because it's fun.
It depends on the season. I see her a lot more in the summer, probably once, sometimes twice a week. When our kids are busy with their sports, it might be every other week.
And in the times that you see the plaintiff, are her children ever present?
Most of the time they are.
Casey, have you ever seen the plaintiff express love or affection towards her children?
I have.
And can you give a specific example?
Absolutely. I mean, when the kids are upset, she's usually hugging them or trying to calm them down. When they're getting ready for bed and that kind of thing, she helps tuck them in and get them settled for the night.
She sounds like an all-around great mom, like a soccer mom, but for volleyball and hockey variety. She does. She sounds like an amazing mother.
And Casey, have you been around the plaintiff when she's getting the children ready for bed?
I have.
And do you see the children reciprocate love and affection towards the plaintiff?
I do.
Can you give me an example of how you've seen the children reciprocate?
Asking for hugs when they're being dropped off at my house. When she's getting ready to leave, they make sure they go up and give her a hug or a kiss before she leaves for the night.
And Casey, from your interactions with the plaintiff, do you believe that she supports their education?
I do.
Can you explain why you think that?
She makes sure she goes to a lot of the school events. We've talked about grades with our kids or struggles that they might be having in school. As moms, we've shared that. I know she goes to their open houses, those types of things. Helps with homework.
Have you ever seen the plaintiff help with homework?
I have.
Can you recall a specific example?
Helping with worksheets that were brought home from school with the girls, when they've had questions and that type of thing. She was right there helping them.
And Casey, do you know if the plaintiff assists the children with homework when they're with the defendant?
She does.
And how do you know that this
Objection.
happens?
Yeah, I lack of foundation.
Isn't that what Ms. Lynch just asked? How do you know that?
I believe I was saying objection at the same time, so I didn't. It was.
Okay, so let's go with, we're getting at the foundation, so.
All right, Casey, I'll repeat the question. How do you know that the plaintiff assists the children with homework when they're with the defendant?
I've been at her house at night when the kids are with Kevin, and they'll text, a screenshot of what they're working on for math specifically, or they'll call.
I thought I posted it. I'm sorry.
Casey, have you ever seen the plaintiff discipline the children?
I have.
And from what you observed, would you characterize the plaintiff's method of discipline appropriate or inappropriate?
I would say appropriate.
Have you ever heard the plaintiff yell at the children?
Not yell. Just use a stern voice.
In the context of discipline, have you ever heard the defendant yell at the children?
I would say the same thing. It would be more of a stern voice when we're around than
And
yelling.
Miss Casey, have you ever seen the plaintiff provide food for the children?
Yes.
Can you give a specific example?
We've been over there for dinner recently, and she's preparing a meal. When my kids are there, all of them kind of go right to the snack cabinet and help themselves to snacks as well and drinks. So.
Have you ever seen the plaintiff provide medical care for the children?
Yes.
Can you give a specific example?
One of the girls had fallen down, and she's cleaning up their wound or putting on a Band-Aid. Nothing major, but.
Liquor?
And have you ever seen the children seek comfort from the plaintiff?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the plaintiff attend the children's extracurricular activities such as a sporting event or recital?
I have.
And what activities have you seen the plaintiff at?
I've seen her at volleyball, hockey, and softball.
And during those events, does the plaintiff appear engaged with the event that's occurring?
She does.
During those events, have you ever seen the plaintiff encourage or support the children?
Yes. Yep. She's usually cheering on her children or the team, depending on the sport.
And Casey, in the context of extracurricular activities, have you ever seen the plaintiff speak negatively about the children's performance?
No.
In the context of extracurricular activities, have you ever seen the defendant speak negatively to the children about their performance?
No,
Casey, aside from attending the children's events, do you know if the plaintiff is involved in any other capacity with those extracurriculars?
she has coached volleyball. She has coached softball. She's been the team manager for several of the hockey seasons for the hockey teams.
And would you characterize plaintiff as an involved parent or an uninvolved parent?
I would say involved.
Can you explain why you think that?
She's always encouraging open communication with them. She has a handle on their grades and their education. She's very invested in their extracurriculars and just making sure that their needs and well-being are being met.
In case
Yeah, the first day, like I said, I warned you at the beginning, it's not going to be spicy and fun the first day. Laying foundation is boring. It really is. And there's a lot of, questions that are just common sense questions, but you have to remember the judge cannot consider anything at all unless it's put on the record. So if they don't ask, have you seen, the child eat, then the judge, for all intents and purposes, has to assume the child never has. It's stupid. It's so boring the first day, but it does get better. I promise. Stick with me. I did this for a reason.
in the times that you have seen the plaintiff interact with her children, have you observed any behavior from the plaintiff that you would consider to be concerning?
I have not.
Casey, in the context of travel hockey, have you ever spent a weekend with the Kloosterman family?
I have.
And during those weekends, who would you say was more responsible for day-to-day care of the children, the plaintiff or the defendant?
When I was present, most of the children were going to Jen for any questions or things that they had come up, and she normally had the girls with her.
And Casey, have you ever gone boating with the Kloosterman family?
I have.
And during those instances, what party was more responsible for ensuring the children had sunscreen, food, those sorts of things?
I know Jen always packed the sunscreen and the food up. She was definitely nagging them to make sure that they reapplied the sunscreen quite a bit.
Casey, do you have any knowledge as to what party, plaintiff or defendant, transports the children?
I don't have very clear knowledge on that one, no.
And Casey, in terms of communication, do you find it easy or difficult to communicate with the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman?
She's very easy to communicate with.
In terms of communication, would you say it's easy or difficult to communicate with the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman?
He's been easy for me to communicate with as well.
Casey, on the weekend of September 30th, 2023, did one of the Kloosterman children spend the night at your home?
Yes.
Do you know if that weekend was defendant's parenting time or plaintiff's parenting time?
It was the defendant's parenting time.
Did the defendant reach out to you to coordinate that sleepover at your house?
He did not. I actually found out about it. I knew our children were engaging in the conversation, but Jen actually called me in regards to it.
So to be clear, Miss Kloosterman, the plaintiff, called you for that sleepover?
Correct.
And prior to the party separation, would any of the Kloosterman children stay the night at your home?
Yes.
Who would coordinate those sleepovers at your home?
Jen and I would coordinate those.
Casey, have you ever heard the plaintiff, Jen Kloosterman, speak negatively about the defendant in front of the minor children?
I have not.
And Casey, have you ever heard the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman, speak negatively about the plaintiff in front of the minor children?
Occasionally.
And Casey, are you aware of any incidents of physical aggression between defendant and plaintiff?
There have been some, yes.
Can you explain your answer?
They had a domestic situation a few years ago.
Objection, lack of foundation. If she wasn't physically present to see this, I don't think she has a foundation to testify about it.
There are some questions that you can't exactly lay the foundation for until you get the answer to the question of whether or not they have any personal knowledge of it. So I get where his attorney is coming from, but I also get where her attorney is coming from.
Your Honor, Miss,
He hasn't said whether she was there or not. So do you want to just follow up on that foundation question and we'll see?
sure, Your Honor. Casey, how do you know about the domestic incident?
I had conversations with Jen about it, and Kelvin after the incident.
Then also I'm gonna object to hearsay.
They do at some
I assume Jen is the plaintiff in this case, so overruled.
Kelvin, however, is the child and
Thank
she
you,
stated,
thank you, overruled.
Casey, can you go ahead and explain what conversations you had with Jen about the domestic?
I had conversations with Jen pretty quickly after the domestic because Kevin had been removed from the home for a period of time, and the situation was very stressful, obviously for her, and the kids were having a hard time adjusting. So her and I just talked about it in depth as far as how to best support her and the kids through that time. She gave me a little bit of insight from her perspective as to what had happened. So we discussed that too.
I don't know. I kind of like the floor for a ceiling look. You know, the only thing that would make it better would be carpet on the walls as wallpaper. Shag carpet. She needs shag carpet wallpaper.
And Casey, from your conversation with Miss Kloosterman, who did you understand was hurt physically in the domestic incident?
My understanding was that Jen was hurt.
And Casey, you spoke, or earlier you testified that you also spoke to Calvin about this incident.
Mhm.
Is that correct? What was your conversation with Calvin?
objection, hearsay.
I'll withdraw
agree.
the question, Your Honor.
I agree.
Casey, earlier you testified that occasionally you hear the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman, speak negatively about the plaintiff in front of the minor children. Can you explain your answer?
When we've been there and during disagreements, he would call her stupid, and mainly nothing beyond that.
And Casey, do you have any reason to believe that the plaintiff, Jen Kloosterman, is attempting to harm the relationship between defendant and the children?
Objection, speculation.
Response.
Your Honor, I asked her if she has any reason. Based on her answer, I can follow up and lay the foundation for why she believes that
She drives me a little
or
crazy.
doesn't believe it. I mean, I can't lay the foundation without her first answer.
Sure.
Ms. Casey, I'm gonna ask you the question again. Do you have any reason to believe the plaintiff is attempting to harm the relationship between the defendant and the children?
I do not.
And Casey, do you have any reason to believe the defendant is attempting to harm the relationship between the plaintiff and the children?
Objection, speculation. We just went through this and we were supposed to ask a follow-up question on the first one, and now she's just continuing to go to the other side.
The first question, she said no, and I moved on. I'm asking a separate question now, Your Honor.
But we need to know why she says no. I mean, she's a fact witness.
I think you can dig into that one, Cross.
Okay, Casey, I'm going to ask you again. Do you have any reason to believe the defendant is attempting to harm the relationship between the plaintiff and the minor children?
Not clear on that one, no.
I have no further questions, Casey. Thank you.
Mr. Counselor, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Plamanen, would you say that you're close friends with Ms. Kloosterman?
I would say yes, we are.
You don't have the same type of friendship with Mr. Kloosterman, is that fair to say?
That would be fair.
So, wouldn't it seem more appropriate that your very good friend is the one contacting you more often regarding your mutual children's events, things like that, than somebody that you're not really friends with?
That would be who I would feel most comfortable reaching out to, yes.
Okay. So that in and of itself, that doesn't really mean Mr. Kloosterman's not involved with his children's lives. It just means he's not communicating with you, who is Ms. Kloosterman's friend, correct?
Correct.
And you said that your children and the Kloosterman children are both involved in specifically hockey, but any other extracurriculars that they do together?
No. Our boys play together or have played together.
And with respect to hockey events, do you typically see both parents there?
Depending on the weekend, yes. Both
Um,
have been there.
well, can you please explore that? What's going on a weekend that it would be different that both parents wouldn't be there?
They have multiple children in travel sports. So I can only assume that one is with one child and one is with the other.
So have there been times where you've seen Mr. Kloosterman at hockey and not Mrs. Kloosterman?
Correct.
How often would you say that occurred?
It's been a few years since our boys have been on the same team. I know I saw him last year during our boys' districts when they played each other.
Would you see Mr. Kloosterman travel out of town with one of the children by himself?
Yes.
And that occurred more than once?
Correct.
Would you say that occurred fairly often?
Pretty evenly split, yes.
So on those occasions, when you were asked if during those travel hockey weekends, who provided the day-to-day care for the children, it would have been Mr. Kloosterman if he was the only one there. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And you were asked about going boating with the Kloosterman family. Was Mr. Kloosterman also present?
Correct.
Was he taking on other tasks like operating the boat or playing with the children, swimming, things like that?
He was.
Okay. So just because Ms. Kloosterman did the food and the sunscreen, that doesn't mean he wasn't there or involved with his children, does it?
It does not.
During those occasions of boating, did you observe the children interacting with Mr. Kloosterman?
Yes.
Did they appear loving, affectionate, talkative, bonded to him?
Yes.
Just as much as Ms. Kloosterman?
Yes.
You spoke
Sometimes
regarding
others
a
speak.
domestic violence incident a few years ago that you spoke to Ms. Kloosterman about that, correct?
I did.
Is your entire frame of reference of what happened based on what Ms. Kloosterman said to you?
Yes.
You never spoke to Mr. Kloosterman to get his side of the story, did you?
No.
You weren't physically present. You didn't actually see anything happen, did you?
No.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect, Ms. Lentz?
Just briefly, Casey, the hockey weekends, going back to that for a second. Were there weekends that you spent with the Kloosterman where both parents were present?
Yes.
And in those times, what parent did you observe doing most of the child rearing activities?
When they were together, it would be Jen.
Just don't
And
drive.
Casey, you were just asked about the domestic And the question was something along the lines of like, is your only frame of reference from conversations with Jen? Isn't it true that you also spoke to other people about the domestic incident?
I spoke to Jen and to Kelvin.
No further questions.
Any final questions, Ms. Schmelzer?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly regarding the hockey weekends, that both parents were present and you testified that Mrs. Kloosterman did most of the child rearing activities. What specifically did you see her doing?
I saw her entertaining the two girls, getting them ready for bed, taking them swimming, organizing the meals, making sure that everyone was dressed and ready to get out the door.
Is that because their son Kelvin was actually playing hockey?
I would assume it's because Kelvin was older and could probably get himself ready, but yes, he was playing hockey.
And Mr. Kloosterman was with Kelvin during those occasions?
I don't recall if they had one or two vehicles to transport.
Well, where was Mr. Kloosterman in your observations?
He was typically close by. I mean, either in the room or with the other parents. I mean, some of the other parents would gather in the lobbies and
he was also with his children, correct?
he was there, yes.
He was attending the hockey game for Kelvin?
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You're all set.
Thank you.
And I did have someone new pop in, so I can tell you.
I would appreciate that. Thanks, Your Honor.
It's Jessica Bocian.
Yes, I would like to call her as my next witness.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Fine, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, you've been called as a witness in this matter by Ms.
Sorry
Lentz,
for that.
the client. She'll have some questions for you. And then if he chooses to, Ms. Schmelzer may have some questions for you, okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Lentz.
Miss Bocian, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Yeah, it's Jessica Beauchamp. The last name is Bocian.
Do you mind if I call you Jessica?
Feel free.
Okay. Jessica, where are you currently employed?
I work for Lakeview Realty in Lake Ann.
And do you hold any positions outside of that employment in regard to the community?
I do. I have currently acted as Director of Operations for middle school sports for both TC East Middle School and TC West Middle School for
And
multiple sports.
How long have you been doing that?
This will be my third season.
And Jessica, can you explain how you know the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman?
Yep. I met Jennifer last year as a parent when she enrolled her daughter Callie into the volleyball program. Every time we have games for volleyball, we need parent volunteers to do either the score books and or line judging. So each game requires 3 adults to participate. And she was always a volunteer without ever asking. She just was like, how can I help you? She has a knowledge base of volleyball that's strong and fluent and was always available last year. So that's how we met each other.
And do you know any of the Kloosterman children?
I know Callie.
And how do you know Callie?
She's an athlete for the program.
And Jessica, if you had to estimate on a weekly basis, how often do you see the plaintiff?
Between 1 to 2 times a week, depending on where her games are located and where I'm placed for game management that night.
And in the times you see the plaintiff, are her children ever present?
Callie's always there because she's a player on the team. And I believe the other kiddo is her other daughter who comes up to hug her. So I'm going to assume it's her kid.
And Jessica, do you recall receiving any emails from the plaintiff in regard to facilitating Callie's participation in volleyball?
Yes.
Do you recall receiving any emails from the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman, in regard to facilitating Callie's participation in volleyball?
No.
Jessica, does the plaintiff attend Callie's volleyball games?
Jen, correct?
Yes, Jen
Sorry.
Kloosterman.
Yep. Yes, she's a coach. And
And
she has
during,
been at every game.
and during those games, have you ever seen the plaintiff encourage Callie?
She encourages all of her players.
What sort of behavior does plaintiff do to encourage the players?
High fives, camaraderie, team dynamics, good job. I always view with coaching that encouragement is also modifying how you coach to coach and teach the kid, the athlete, to grow. So she's often giving players the tidbacks and the feedback to improve in a positive format.
Have you seen her give her own daughter that feedback?
Absolutely. And
Jessica, was there an issue at volleyball tryouts this year with Callie?
I'm not gonna say Callie, because Callie has never been an issue as a player or as a human. There was an issue as far as we had potentially some mechanical technology difficulties with our registration system. So we had a number of athletes show up to tryouts in August, stating they were here for trying out, but they were not somehow in my computer system to show me that they were like genuinely had done all the steps. At which point in years past, the plan has always been, if we don't have room for your athlete currently, because they're not in our program, the best way to circumvent that system is to coach yourself or find a family friend or somebody that you know to coach that team. And then your athlete jumps over into that team. And Jen right away knew that we had a tech glitch of some sort. We didn't know what it was. Many people did. And I said, hey, we need a coach. And she's like, give me 5 minutes. I think I'm going to coach.
And did the plaintiff, Jen Kloosterman, actually agree to coach?
She did. She came back and said, I've been advised to not coach because my life is very busy, but I also know it is what is best for my athlete, my daughter, and the other kids that are going to be able to have a team to play on. And she said, I'm doing it because it's what's best for the kids.
And Jessica, did Jen's action in agreeing to coach allow Callie to play on the team?
Yes, we did not have a coach at that point for that team.
Jessica, that decision by plaintiff, what does it lead you to believe as to her commitment to her children?
She took on knowing that she had a brand new job and some probably transition in life, whatever that was going on with. It allowed her to take on an ability to have her kid play on a team, be with her daughter every day, because that's always huge to be one-on-one with your kid and with the team. And it allowed, in the end, 15 kids to have a coach. We originally rostered her at 12, and there were 3 that were on the bubble of athletic ability. And Jen said, I am happy to take 3 more because this is their true last shot to really get solid coaching in order to go on to the high school level. So she took 15 kids, which is really hard.
And Jessica, have you received any feedback in regard to Jen's coaching?
Yep, we had besides my personal feedback, which has been organized and on the ball and intuitive, our athletic director at the East Side is Miss Jonna Deering. And Jonna called me one day after walking into Jen's practice early on and said, wow, she's so good at what she's doing right now.
Objection, hearsay.
I agree. Sustained.
Understood, Your Honor. Jessica, have you received any negative feedback about Jen's coaching?
Objection calls for hearsay. She can ask her about her own observations, but
Yeah, you can ask, well, you can't mention what other people have said, ma'am. Even though you're being asked that, it's not an appropriate question.
Thank you.
Your Honor, or sorry, Jessica, have you ever been disappointed with Jen's coaching?
No.
And Jessica, does plaintiff appear attentive to the children she coaches?
Yes, as well as also an organized coach.
And does she relate well to the children that she coaches?
To the best of my observations, yes.
Jessica, has the plaintiff ever negatively discussed the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman, to you?
No.
And Jessica, from your observations of plaintiff, would you consider her to be an involved or an uninvolved parent?
Involved.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Schmelzer, any questions for this witness?
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, my name is Lori Schmelzer and I represent Kevin Kloosterman. Just briefly, you mentioned that you met Ms. Kloosterman about a year ago. Is that correct?
Correct. She brought Callie to evaluations.
Okay. And when does the volleyball season run?
It starts end of August and it just finished up yesterday, actually.
Prior to August, was there anything going on with respect to volleyball tryouts, coaching?
Not anything that
conditioning?
I'm involved. Not anything that I'm involved in, no.
Okay. You mentioned that you see Ms. Kloosterman about 1 to 2 times per week. Is that throughout the entire year or only during the volleyball season?
Volleyball season.
So did you see her last year between August and October for volleyball season as well?
Correct. Anytime that I was at a school that her daughter played at and I work as a director of operations, which is kind of like an assistant athletic director. So anytime I'm at a game at East Middle or West Middle and her athlete was playing at that location, that's when I have had that cross reference of Jen during the season.
So is it fair to say that from approximately the end of October of 2022 to August of 2023, you actually didn't see Ms. Kloosterman 1 to 2 times per week?
Correct. It's just during volleyball season.
Okay. And you mentioned that you know.
Quick little kitty break. This is my baby. This is Billy O.T. He is my love. He is my angel. He is the best darn kitty in the entire world. And y'all will see a whole lot more of him because he cuddles with me a lot. So, and he was dubbed best lawyer kitty a couple nights ago on the stream. Yeah. He got a couple clients off. So I was real proud of him. Yeah. But yeah, so this is Billy O.T. He is my love, my absolute heart. And he's just the sweetest thing ever.
Her daughter, Callie, does she have other children?
I believe she has 3.
And who are they? Have you ever met them?
Nope, I don't know them completely. I really focus on the athlete.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You're all set.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Named
Thanks.
after the Wellerman.
Jamie's iPhone just popped on too, or at some point.
Yep, she would be my next witness, Your Honor.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Are you Jamie?
I do not know why they called this woman as a witness. I really don't. I don't like her. I think she was a useless witness. Let me know what you guys think after you see her, but at closer to the end, I'll translate some of what she says.
Jamie?
Yes.
My name is Matt Hagan. I'm the referee in this matter. Would you mind telling me your name, your full name, please?
Sure. Jamie Burley.
How do you spell your last name?
Burley.
Thank you. You've been called as a witness in this matter by Ms. Lentz and her client. They'll have some questions for you, or she'll have some questions for you. And then if she chooses to, Ms. Schmelzer may have some questions for you, okay?
Okay.
A YouTube one.
Get everything typed in. Okay.
Nothing.
Could you raise your right hand, please?
Yeah.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Lentz.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Burley, can you explain how you know the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman?
We met a couple years ago. Our kids played hockey together.
And a couple years ago, approximately how long ago was that?
I almost exactly 2 years ago.
And do you know the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman?
Yes.
How do you know the defendant?
Again, through hockey.
Have you known defendant for the same proximity of time as you've known the plaintiff?
I'm sure we met around the same time, yes.
And Miss Burley, how frequently would you say that you see the plaintiff on a weekly basis?
It depends on the time of year. During hockey season, a lot more, probably once a week or more. It's been a little more sporadic when we're not at the ice rink.
And in the times that you see the plaintiff, are her children ever present?
Yes.
In those instances, have you seen the plaintiff express love and affection towards her children?
Yes.
Can you give a specific example or explain why you answered that way?
Yeah, they're a very loving family. I mean, every time I see them together, they're hugging. They're just a loving family. It's obvious to anyone that's around them.
And Miss Burley, have you seen the children? I guess, never mind, scratch that. Miss Burley, from your interactions with the plaintiff, do you believe that she supports the children's education?
Yes.
Why would you say that?
Well, Jen's a teacher. We've had conversations about education before in general. It's something that, yeah, is a high priority for her. We've had conversations about it before.
Has the plaintiff ever helped your own children?
I don't know specifically, but it has been offered. I know she's a math tutor, and I've given her name out before to help other people that have needed tutoring.
Miss Burley, have you ever seen the plaintiff, Jennifer Kloosterman, like discipline her children?
No.
And Miss Burley, have you ever seen the plaintiff provide food for her children?
Yes.
Can you give a specific example?
Well, we have teenage boys, so they are hungry all the time. There's always food available. There's been many occasions we've been at where she's brought food, or yes, many times.
Miss Burley, have you ever seen the plaintiff provide medical care for the children?
No.
Miss Burley, have you ever seen the children seek comfort from the plaintiff?
Yes.
Can you give an example?
As I said before, they're a very loving family. I mean, I can't think of a specific example of something that happened, but she's always there for a hug for her kids. It's not an uncommon thing to see her hugging her children, or just there for them in general.
And Miss Burley, when you see the plaintiff at these, I think you said hockey events, does she appear engaged with the activity?
Yes.
Have you ever seen her offer encouragement to the children during these events?
Yes.
How did you see her offer encouragement?
Well, being there is a big part of it. As much encouragement as you can offer from the other side of the glass at an ice rink. She's always there after the game to say good job, and
it gets worse.
She's there as much as she can be. Having 3 active kids in sports, that's got to be tough, dividing time between all of them, but she makes it happen. I don't know how she does it.
And Miss Burley, in the context of extracurricular activities, have you ever seen the plaintiff speak negatively to the children about their performance at the extracurriculars?
No.
In the context of extracurricular activities, have you ever seen the defendant speak negatively to the children about their performance?
That's a tough one. Hockey is a bit of an aggressive sport. So I'm not sure.
Can you explain your answer some more?
I can't think of a specific example.
And Miss Burley, aside from attending the children's extracurriculars, do you know if the plaintiff is involved in any other capacity in regard to those extracurriculars? So like aside from just attending the games?
Yeah, she's often involved in whatever other coordination there might be for banquets or award ceremonies. I know this is an extracurricular, but she was room mom at our kids' school last year. Anything that needs to be helped with, she's typically involved.
And Miss Burley, in the times that you have seen the plaintiff interact with her children, have you observed any behavior from her that you would consider to be concerning?
No.
In the times that you have seen the defendant interact with the children, have you observed any behavior from the defendant that you would deem to be concerning?
I'm not sure. I can't think of a specific example.
Ms. Burley, have you ever heard the plaintiff speak negatively about the defendant in front of the children?
No.
Thank God I'm not alone in that line of thinking. I was worried that, you guys would find some reason for this woman to be here, and that I would, be just considered crazy for thinking that she was a terrible witness and why the heck did they call her? But I appreciate you guys because you make me feel less crazy.
And have you ever heard the defendant speak negatively about the plaintiff in front of the children?
I am not around him enough, I don't think, to know.
Ms. Burley, do you know if the plaintiff and defendant are currently residing together?
I don't know for a fact, but from my understanding, they are not.
And is your child friends with one of the minor children in this case?
Yes.
Was there a point in time where you needed to decide if you would permit your son to stay the night with one of the minor children in the care of defendant?
I'm really not comfortable answering these questions about my child in particular.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Ms. Schmeltzer, any questions for this witness?
Yes. Ms. Burley, you stated that you met both parties, both parents, about 2 years ago in the context of your kids playing hockey together. Is that correct?
Correct.
Sort of being sports parents and attending games and events related to hockey, is that really the majority of your frame of reference as to either parent? Or do you spend time outside of hockey with the family?
The mass majority of time was at hockey.
Was Mr. Kloosterman also present?
Yes.
Would you say he was present more often than not present, or rarely present? How often?
Because they have 3 kids, they had to divide their time, so it just depended on the weekend.
Was this travel hockey where you went out of town for tournaments or games?
Yes.
Were there times where Mr. Kloosterman was alone, traveling alone with their son Kelvin, and Miss Kloosterman was not there, that you observed?
Yes.
And you kind of testified a couple times that this is a very loving family. They hug each other and things like that. Is that also applied to the children and Mr. Kloosterman in your observations?
Yes, I think children are generally a little more loving toward their mother physically with hugging and whatnot, but they all seem to care for both parents.
You've observed the children hugging and talking to and interacting with Mr. Kloosterman at these events as well, right?
Correct.
Would you say that you're more close or more friendly with Miss Kloosterman as, you know, two moms of hockey children versus with Mr. Kloosterman?
Yes.
You testified that you've never seen anything that concerned you about either parent with respect to how they cared for or interacted with their children. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And it's true that Mr. Kloosterman took your son golfing with their son Kelvin and wakeboarding
I'm
approximately a
sorry.
month ago.
Approximately. It was this summer, I believe, but
And you were not present for that, correct?
correct.
And you had no concerns over, you know, sending your son for a few hours that day to be with Kelvin and Mr. Kloosterman, correct?
I have a teenage boy. I'm always concerned about what he's doing and who he's with.
Certainly. No concerns that he would be harmed in any way or was in any kind of danger or anything like that, correct?
At that time, no.
And Mr. Kloosterman was able to provide the children a good day of activity, lunch, things like that, and returned him to your care safely?
I mean, I wasn't there. From what I understood, they had a good time, but yes, he returned home.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Any redirect, Ms. Lentz?
Briefly, Your Honor. Miss Burley, this golfing wakeboarding incident that we just talked about, did you know that your son was going with Mr. Kloosterman at the time prior to it happening?
Yes.
And you had, were you upset about that situation?
I am upset usually when my son asks me at the last minute to do something.
Again, non-answer.
And Miss Burley, were you nervous to testify today?
Yes.
Why?
Because my child is involved and he doesn't need to be.
Okay, that's the one that annoyed me. Let me translate that for you. Your divorce is an inconvenience to me and might hurt my 15-year-old little boy's feelings, so stop it. That's the part that made this woman just, yeah. She is a special kind of lady.
Miss Burley, would you say that your concern for your own child is affecting the way you answer the questions today?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Are you suggesting your child's at risk of harm? I mean, I don't understand.
Our kids go to school together. I don't,
Have either of the parties in this case threatened you or your child? I guess is what I'm getting at.
no.
Okay, Ms. Schmelzer, did you have any final questions for this witness?
No, I think the court's questions covered what I was going to ask. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. You're all set.
Thank you.
One second, and then so I still have Garrett DeVries.
Yes,
I don't
Your
know
Honor.
but that's how
Sorry.
it's spelled.
I interrupted you. I didn't mean to.
I was just stating who's in the waiting room still.
Yes, Garrett would be my next witness, Your Honor.
I like him a lot.
Your
I
Honor,
really
Mr. DeVries is in a different room of my office. He is an older gentleman and I'm concerned he doesn't know how to hit the join audio button. Could I please have, oh, there we go. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Matt Hagan. I'm the referee in this matter. You've been called as a witness by Ms. Lentz and her client, Ms. Lentz.
Oh,
We just lost the screen here.
as I said, Your Honor, I think he's struggling a bit with the technology. If you could give me a second, I'm gonna have one of my staff members make sure he can reconnect and then have him not touch anything after that.
No problem.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for your patience, Your Honor. My staff is helping him.
Sure. He's no longer signed in, but I'll let everybody know once he is. Okay.
Patience, Your Honor. My staff is helping him.
Sure. He's no longer signed in, but I'll let everybody know.
There you go.
Okay, Mr. DeVries, can you hear me?
I can, sir.
All right, thank you. So as I was stating a few seconds ago, my name is Matt Hagan. I'm the referee in this matter. Ms. Lentz and her client have called you as a witness, so she'll have some questions for you. And then if she chooses to, Ms. Schmelzer may have some questions for you, okay?
Okay.
All right. 1 second. Mr. DeVries, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We're getting some feedback. So it's seconds ago. My name is Matt Hagan. I'm the referee in this matter. Ms. Lentz and her client have called you as a witness.
You know what? Let's get Megan back in here.
And then if she chooses to, Ms. Schmelzer.
I think we got a conflicting computer here. Are these two competing against each other?
Oh, yeah.
We're getting feedback.
Yes, I can.
Yep, I can now.
That Ms. Lentz, is that you're a staff person?
Yeah.
Yes.
The person can stay in there. Person's not going to be a witness, right?
Hey, Megan, could you
We're
just
good.
stay?
I
for
think we're
one
good
year?
now.
Okay.
I mean, it's.
We're
I
good.
don't mind. I
You're
know
not gonna
the
be a
staff
witness.
probably has other things to do. I'm just saying, if you need someone, that person hasn't been sequestered. Okay, so Mr. DeVries, you can hear me okay now?
Yes, I can.
Hopefully, if we start to get the feedback or that echo again, we'll just stop and deal with it. Because
I think we got that handled here. So.
all right, thank you. If you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Ms. Lentz.
Mr. DeVries, can you state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
It's Garrett DeVries, D-E-V as in Victor, R-E-E.
And Mr. DeVries, how do you know the plaintiff in this matter, Jennifer Kloosterman?
She's my daughter.
Do you know the defendant in the matter, Kevin Kloosterman?
I do by marriage.
And do you know the minor children at issue in this case?
Yes, I do.
Mr. DeVries, paragraph 7 of defendant's July 6th objection to the temporary order for custody, parenting, and support accuses you of instructing the plaintiff to capture the children saying things on video to use against the defendant. Mr. DeVries, are you instructing your daughter to record the children to use against the defendant?
Never.
Mr. DeVries, paragraph 8 of defendant's July 6th objection to the temporary order for custody, parenting time, and support accuses you of trying to intimidate and harass the defendant. Are you intimidating or harassing the defendant?
No.
Mr. DeVries, was there a time in June of 2023 that you came to the marital residence?
What date was that? It's very well possible. Yeah, I would say so. I don't know exact date, but yes, it's possible.
And can you explain why you would be at the marital residence?
To visit my daughter and grandkids. That's usually why we come here to Traverse City. No other reason.
Would your presence at the marital residence have been to intimidate or harass the defendant?
No.
Mr. DeVries, paragraph 9 of defendant's July 6th objection to the temporary order for custody, parenting time, and support accuses you of stalking the defendant. Are you stalking the defendant, Kevin Kloosterman?
No.
And Mr. DeVries, the defendant's status conference brief accuses you of coaching the plaintiff to turn the children away from the defendant. Are you coaching the plaintiff to turn the children against defendant?
No.
Mr. DeVries, defendant's status conference brief accuses you of purchasing a boat for your grandson in an attempt to buy his affection for the plaintiff. Did you purchase a boat for your grandson in an attempt to influence your grandson's decision?
No, I did not.
Can you explain the boat situation?
The boat was a boat from my grandparents. They passed away in the early 80s in the estate. I was granted a rowboat. It's been hanging on my barn for near 35 years. And Calvin said he like to go fishing when they separated. And I said, you know, I can help out there. I have a boat on the back of my barn that's been sitting there. So I got it. I cleaned it out. I had an electric motor that I got from selling stuff in my business 35 years ago. I pulled it out of the basement, hooked it up, and I brought it to Calvin to use for fishing.
Doggo has to
And
go
Mr.
potty.
DeVries,
We're back.
how would you characterize your daughter as a mother?
My daughter is probably one of the best mothers that I would know. She's very thoughtful. She's very caring. She puts her kids first before her own needs. Yes.
I have no further questions for you, Mr. DeVries.
Ms. Schmelzer, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, I can confer with my client just briefly.
Yes.
One moment. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. DeVries, in late June or early July, isn't it true that you were parked in a vehicle outside of Mr. Kloosterman's workshop
Yes, I was.
and you were observing him, correct?
No, I was not.
Why were you there?
You want the short version or the long version? I'll give you the short version. We were going to leave. It was a Sunday night. We were going to.
No, that was in April.
That was in April already.
Mr.
Um,
DeVries.
Oh, hang on, objection. This witness is being coached.
No, I'm not.
Well,
I just heard a female voice correct his testimony.
Can I take care of this, please, Ms. Schmelzer? Yeah, somebody's in there telling you what to say, sir, so that.
Okay, my wife is in here, don't she not? She just got the date.
No.
but-
Mr. DeVries, can you have her leave the room?
Yes, I
Sorry,
can.
you can't
Yes,
be in
I'm
there.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Obviously, she's not gonna be able to be a witness now. You're aware of that.
She's not a witness, Your Honor.
Who else is in the room, sir?
Nobody.
That's
Nobody.
that person isn't even in there?
No, she's not anymore. She left.
All right, Ms. Schmelzer.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir,
Yes,
you do admit that you provided the 15-year-old son a boat for fishing after the party separated, correct?
yes, I did. Yes,
And you've also sent him pictures of additional boats, instructing him that these are things you could purchase for him, correct?
no,
You
I
also
sent
bought
him-
him snowmobiles.
no.
You've never offered to purchase him anything else. The boat is it.
I never purchased a boat for him. The boat was for him to use. It is my boat. It's for all my grandkids to use. So, no, I did not.
And your
Oh.
testimony today is that you've never sent Kelvin any pictures of any other boats, snowmobiles, or made any other offers to purchase things for him.
I have sent him pictures of boats and snowmobiles for me to purchase, and I sent them for him to, hey, what do you think about this one? That's for the only reason. I do not buy my grandkids toys.
Prior to the party's separation in approximately April of 2023, how often did you go to the marital home?
It varies on the week. It could be once a week. Maybe we've been there 3 times a week. It depends.
I'm asking about prior to April of 2023.
Not near as often, maybe once a month. I don't keep track of a calendar. I don't do that.
You live out of town, correct? You don't live in the Traverse City area or Northern Michigan area.
That's correct.
Where do you live?
I live in Zeeland, Michigan.
And approximately how far away is that from Traverse City, or more specifically from the marital home?
2 hours and 15 minutes, probably 150 miles. I don't know.
And since the party separated in April, your visits became more frequent, weekly or multiple times a week. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Were you in the marital home the day that a person by the name of Christy Caldwell was in the marital home?
Yes, I was.
And the children were also present?
I know Kelvin was, yeah, the other ones would have to have been there too, yes.
And Miss Caldwell is an employee of Miss Kloosterman's attorney, is that not correct?
Yes, I believe she was.
And during that incident, isn't it true that things like a PPO and or a CPS investigation were being discussed openly in front of the children?
I'm not sure what you're asking me there.
Miss Caldwell, an employee
Yes,
of Wilson Kester Law Firm who represents Miss Kloosterman, was present in the home with you and the children, correct?
that's correct.
And topics regarding a PPO and or a Child Protective Services investigation were discussed in front of the children that day, correct?
The only thing that was discussed is what the rules and regulations of the PPO were. To clarify that, and it was only to Kelvin, not to the girls.
Kelvin, the minor child who's 15 years old, is that correct?
Yes,
And you grabbed Kelvin's arm when he tried to walk away and told him to listen, is that correct?
I don't recall doing that. No, I do not. I
I have
usually
no
do
further
not.
questions for this witness.
Any redirect, Ms. Lentz?
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. Mr. DeVries, do you know, was an employee dropping off the entered PPO at the marital residence?
Excuse me?
Was the employee from my office delivering the entered PPO to the marital residence, to the plaintiff?
I believe she was, yes.
And Mr. DeVries, do you have any knowledge of a CPS investigation being open in June of 2023 when this PPO was delivered?
No,
And Mr. DeVries, to be clear, when you text the minor child pictures of boats and snowmobiles, are you attempting to influence him or have a conversation with him?
I am attempting to have a conversation with him. I like to interact with my grandchildren. And I've been out of snowmobiling for 3 years now, and I'd like to get back in, so I like his input. He's 15 years old, he has an input. I like his opinion of things.
Mr. DeVries, if your child, just as a parent, if your child's going through a difficult situation, is it normal for parents to be more supportive during that time?
Yes, it is. In my case, it is.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any final questions, Ms. Schmelzer?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll go off the record briefly here. All right, we're back on the record on case number 2317423DM. Ms. Lentz, your next witness, please.
Your Honor, I'll call Jennifer Kloosterman, the plaintiff.
All right. 1 second. All right, ma'am, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Ms. Lentz.
Ms. Kloosterman, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. Jennifer Kloosterman, Kloosterman.
Are you currently married?
I am.
Who are you currently married to?
Kevin Kloosterman,
How long have you and the defendant been married?
17 years.
And do you and the defendant share any children together?
Yes, we do.
How many children do you and the defendant share?
3.
And what are the names and ages of the children you and the defendant share?
Calvin 15, Callie 13, and Kelsey 10.
Ms. Kloosterman, are you and the defendant currently residing together?
No.
I think that's the dog that you'll hear about probably tomorrow.
No, we are not.
And when did you and the defendant physically separate?
April 14, 2023.
After that separation, did you stay in the marital residence?
Yes, I did.
Where did the defendant go?
He went to his parents' house.
Ms. Kloosterman, paragraph 4 of defendant's objection to the temporary order for custody support and parenting time claims that you kicked defendant out of the house. Is that true?
That is not true.
Ms. Kloosterman, on May 2nd, 2023 at 8:11 p.m., did the defendant text you, "I will also not be moving home. We are not there yet"?
He did.
Ms. Kloosterman, in the days and weeks after the defendant left the marital residence, how would you describe the environment in the marital residence?
It was calm, loving, yeah, obviously different because he wasn't there. But it was calm and peaceful, and we weren't walking on eggshells.
And Ms. Kloosterman, after a defendant left the marital residence, was there a parenting time schedule that you and him set up?
Yeah, we just we had talked about it, and we just said, since I was at the house, and I was teaching and the kids were in school, and I took care of the kids. I did the kid stuff during the week. We just very easily slid into every other weekend. It was very fluid because he worked a lot, and that was amping up towards his busy season with working. And so I would never, I guess, withhold the kids. It was just very much, this is your weekend. You get first choice on what you want to do with the kids or do things with them. And then the next weekend, I would be like, okay, now I'm going to do something with them, especially when it involved, if he was going to his family or we were to travel to my family, that sort of thing.
And Ms. Kloosterman, when did you file your complaint for divorce?
May 17, 2023.
After the defendant retained an attorney, did his position about leaving the marital residence change?
Absolutely. He all of a sudden told me that he wanted to move back in, that I kicked him out, which I didn't kick him out. I had asked him, to leave, but I never prevented him from coming back.
Yeah, that happens a lot when guys get attorneys, or girls, when they get attorneys and they find out, oh, by you leaving, you've given up the right to the house, or you've created a scenario where I can argue, but not for as much, money or leniency or time or whatever the case may be. So then all of a sudden their position changes because they realize they've just screwed themselves in court. So yeah, once they get an attorney, of course their position on it's going to change, because they don't want to be fleeced for everything they own. And if you just walk out of the marital home, you're going to pretty much lose everything. You're handing everything over to the other spouse. So yeah, fun times. No. I did it again. I'm sorry. Where was I? Oh, past that, girl. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Factor case. And in the days and weeks that followed the defendant's return to the marital residence, how?
Man.
Are you currently married?
I am.
Who are you currently married to?
Kevin Kloosterman.
How long have you and the defendant been married?
We had talked about it, and we just said, since I was at the house, and I was teaching and the kids were in school, and I took care of the kids. I did the kid stuff during the week. We just very easily slid into every other weekend. It was very fluid because he worked a lot, and that was amping up towards his busy season with working. And so I would never, I guess, withhold the kids. It was just very much, this is your weekend. You get first choice on what you want to do with the kids or do things with them. And then the next weekend,
few days.
You know, I would kind of like be like, okay, now I'm going to do something with them, especially like when it involved, like if he was going to his family or we were to travel to my family, that sort of thing.
And Ms. Kloosterman, when did you file your complaint for divorce?
May 17, 2023.
After the defendant retained an attorney, did his position about leaving the marital residence change?
Absolutely. He all of a sudden told me that he wanted to move back in, that I kicked him out, which I didn't kick him out. I had asked him, you know, like to leave, but I never prevented him from coming back. And all of a sudden it was very rigid. He had like an agenda of wanting to see the kids, not very flexible with like the fluidity of taking the kids places and doing things with them.
And Ms. Kloosterman, at some point in time, did the defendant return to the marital residence?
Yes, he did.
When was that?
June 13th.
And Ms. Kloosterman, when was the temporary order for custody, parenting time, and support entered in your case?
I believe it was June 15th.
And in the days and weeks that followed the defendant's return to the marital residence, how was the environment at the home?
It was edgy at best, back to eggshells, very we were all just on edge. It seemed fake. It seemed like this holding pattern of nobody really knew what was going on. It wasn't conducive to relaxation of living by any means. It was kind of back to the walking on eggshells and trying our best to, you know, still cohabitate, knowing where we were headed.
And Ms. Kloosterman, in the days and weeks that followed the defendant's return to the marital residence, how would you describe his behavior towards you?
He had really amped up when I had talked to him about the fact that I had found out that there was an inappropriate relationship going on. I was hurt.
Objection. This is not relevant to the children.
I don't even know what it is.
A little premature.
I'm asking how the defendant treated my client, which is directly relevant to how these parties co-parent and factor J. If my client can explain how the defendant treated her and why she believes that, I think it is relevant.
Well, you can follow up. Like I said, I don't even know if this means an inappropriate relationship with the kids. How would I know that based on the question asked? I don't have any context for this. So you can follow up and we can see where the objections go. I'm not ruling out that you can't object. I just don't have any. You all know your case. You're presenting it to someone who doesn't know the case other than what's been filed. That's all I can tell you, which I have read through this file.
Oh, she's seething.
So I'm going to re-ask the question. Ms. Kloosterman, in the days and weeks that followed the defendant's return to the marital residence, how would you describe his behavior towards you?
Very, very pushy, very aggressive, especially in front of the children. He wanted to continue our like a marital relationship physically. And I was not at that point in our relationship because of what I had learned had happened. And I wanted to just kind of like, at this point, I was hoping that we could maybe get through this together and figure out why and how, where the breakdown is and why this is happening. I wanted nothing to do physically with him at this point. And in front of the children, many times he would try kissing me, touching me, grabbing me. And I had told him many times, this is the last thing I want right now in our relationship. We need to get other things squared away first if this is going to be returned to a marriage relationship.
And Ms. Kloosterman, on June 29th, 2023, did you file a petition for an ex parte personal protection order?
I did.
Can you explain why you filed a petition for an ex parte personal protection order?
Yes, because when he was back in the house for those 2 weeks' time, it was continual pressure for sexual acts.
Objection, we're getting beyond the scope of relevancy. We need to link this to the children only. What two parents or two parties in a 17-year marriage do in their private life is not relevant to how they are as parents.
Your Honor, if I may respond to that.
Yeah.
Factor K specifically addresses domestic violence, whether in the presence or not. MCL 400 1.501 defines domestic violence in part as to cause a family or household member to engage in involuntary sexual activity by force, threat of force, or duress. And I think this falls squarely within the definition of domestic violence contemplated by Factor K.
I agree.
So, Ms. Kloosterman, I'm going to ask you to, again, answer the question. Can you explain why you filed a petition for an ex parte personal protection order?
Absolutely. I was not feeling safe. The way I would act showed that, and the kids were very in tune with that. I was trying to protect them.
And speculation as to what the children were attuned to.
Response?
Sorry, I didn't know if you were talking or if I was talking.
Well, no, sometimes I'm thinking because I don't always need a response, and sometimes I wanted to allow you to respond. I mean,
Your Honor, I believe the children.
The issue is some of the testimony was that some of these acts occurred in front of the kid. So if Ms. Schmelzer is asking you to clarify, that's what it is. It's not necessarily a general, we haven't talked about this. It was said not even 5 minutes ago on the record. So there's context, but if she needs you to clarify it and can't or won't do that on cross, you.
This is Michigan. It is a court that covers Grand Traverse. I think it's like Anwin or Elwin and Lenawee counties. There's 3 counties that this covers. It's the 13th District Court. Someone was asking where it was from, but it is Michigan. I know that much.
You can do that now.
All right, Ms. Kloosterman, some of these instances of, I'll call it sexual pressure, occurred in front of the children, correct?
Absolutely.
Do you believe the children, when they would see those instances, would become, I guess for lack of a better term, would they respond in a way? Could you tell that they acknowledged it?
Yes, I think they were confused because at this point they thought we were, we're married, and we tried to hide most of this from them. But Kevin knows that I do not like to create conflict in front of our children. And so a lot of these advances would happen in front of our kids because he knew then that I would not object or stand strong or verbally, I said verbally stop, but I would not get into an altercation with him in front of our children whenever possible.
And Ms. Kloosterman, was your request for a personal protection order granted?
Yes, it was.
When was that granted?
June 30th of 2023.
And as a result of that personal protection order, did the defendant leave the marital residence again?
Yes, he did.
And have you and the defendant remained separated physically since June 30th, 2023?
Yes, we have.
And Ms. Kloosterman, what is the current parenting time schedule under the terms of the June 15th, 2023 order?
It is every other week with an exchange at 6 o'clock on Sunday, and then 3 hours of parenting time on Wednesday.
Not to
Should
my
we not
knowledge,
agree on a different day?
but gross.
And Ms. Kloosterman, where are you currently employed?
Traverse City Christian,
What position do you hold at Traverse City Christian?
math teacher,
How long have you been employed with Traverse City Christian?
this summer, 2023.
And prior to working at Traverse City Christian, where did you work?
Old Mission Peninsula School.
Did you voluntarily leave your employment with Old Mission, or were you terminated?
I voluntarily left.
Ms. Kloosterman, why did you voluntarily leave?
I needed a clean environment, fresh environment, because the altercation, inappropriate relationship was with my boss and friend.
Objection, outside the scope of relevancy as to the children.
Isn't this-
And also lack of foundation. She has not laid
Ooh.
any foundation to say that that actually occurred.
May I respond?
Maybe, so I may not be understanding. Are there two inappropriate issues here? So here's part of what I'm trying to figure out. I am aware that the attorneys on behalf of their clients filed a stipulation with regard to child support. This directly relates to child support. So I don't know if whether she voluntarily left an employer directly relates to child support. So so let me ask this. Is this issue you're talking about, leaving that school, already a part of your stip? You see what I'm saying? So if you've essentially stipulated those facts, I would agree it's irrelevant. You both signed it, you both filed it on October 5th. So
The only reason I was offering, Your Honor, is in terms of like factor B and C. I don't want my client to be deemed like flighty for leaving a job voluntarily. I just don't want it to be interpreted that she has an inconsistent work history. So I was offering a reason for why she left. And again, it would just be to show that, like for factor B and C, that she does have consistent employment and the ability to provide. If that's not an issue, then I'm fine.
Yeah, we'll stipulate that there's no concern regarding her employment. She's still a teacher. She's still working.
Translation, I will stipulate to anything to not have you put it on the record that my client cheated on his wife with her best friend and boss.
Me, that's there's no issue there.
okay, understood. Sometimes people will bring up, well, you left this job, and I understand that's what. So if we're
We've
stipulating
never
that,
brought that up, and we will stipulate that that's not an issue in this case.
The man behind the woman in orange.
And I understand that child support is resolved. I do want to ask about health insurance, though, in the course of her current employment, as that's not addressed in the stipulation. So I just don't. Are you guys frozen? Okay.
no, we're not frozen.
Okay.
I don't think.
My expression is of one of baffle, because I don't see how this relates to the established custodial environment and the best interest factors. She provides health insurance. That's a child support issue that can be dealt with there's no contesting that. My client's self-employed. She's always provided the health insurance for the children. I believe that was always part of the temporary order and would be part of the permanent order, that she get a credit for that. I don't know why we're talking.
I think that the court needs to know how much my client pays for health insurance on the child in order to use the incomes and the stipulation to calculate child support at the end of this.
That's usually referred to the front of the court. They send out a questionnaire. They submit that, then they make a recommendation, and we move on with our lives. I thought today was about established custodial environment and best interest factors, and we're getting into something about a boss.
That part, she's not going into that part. That part's resolved, but the health insurance, you tell me, what did you agree to? The only reason, I'll just state this as a general rule for this jurisdiction, the only reason why the referees have to refer these matters to the front of the court is because, generally speaking, nobody provides any information about child support during these hearings. So I was grateful, how's that, and surprised to see that these parties have actually provided information on child support, because I can assure you it's rare. Now, if you're wanting me to calculate, I can pull up the stip, or you can just tell me. I don't believe it says that we stipulate that you just refer this to the front of the court. If that's what you want me to do, I can do that. I thought it was just income.
No, it's just my understanding of the stip was that
income. All this is income. It doesn't say anything about. There are 5 paragraphs. It says nothing about insurance. So I assume that's something I have to figure out.
Exactly.
Ms. Spelzer, do you know whether that stip has anything to do with insurance?
It's related to income, but there's no contest regarding that she provides health insurance, and that the premium related to the children would would be part of the child support calculation. So if she just wants to give that number right now, that's fine. But there's a lot more that was attempting to be discussed that isn't relevant.
Wait
But
for
we
me.
already ruled. She already said she wasn't going to state any more about that. Ms. Lentz.
All right, Ms. Kloosterman, do you provide health insurance for the 3 children through your employment with Traverse City Christian?
Yes, I do.
And how much does it cost you per pay period to provide health insurance on the 3 minor children?
60 per pay period, which is 120 per month.
And how often are you paid, bi-weekly or weekly?
Twice a month.
Oh, twice a month,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, Ms. Kloosterman, what hours do you work as a middle school math teacher at Traverse City Christian?
7:30 to 3:30.
And are those hours similar to the ones you were working at Old Mission?
Yes, a little bit longer.
What time do you leave your house in order to get to work at Traverse City Christian?
7:15.
And what time do you get home from work after leaving Traverse City Christian?
3:45-ish.
Ms. Kloosterman, while you were employed at Old Mission, did you work the summer months?
Nope.
Are you required to work summer months in your new employment at Traverse City Christian?
No, I'm not.
And Ms. Kloosterman, what does the defendant do for work?
He is self-employed, lawn care, snow removal, landscaping.
Does the defendant's business have a quote unquote busy season?
I would say so. Summer months.
And
May, June, July, August.
And what sort of hours does the defendant work during the summer months of May, June, July, and August?
As far as in our marriage, it's always been pretty much sun up to sundown, 8 o'clock in the morning till when it gets dark.
Christian.
And when you say when it gets dark, what time in the evening would defendant typically return from work during the months of May, June, July, and August?
8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Were there ever times when the defendant would not return home until later than 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah, sometimes when things were really busy.
And Ms. Kloosterman, in the months where defendant's business is like less busy, the off months, for lack of a better term, what sort of hours does he work?
Probably 9 in the morning till 6 dinner time, 6 or 7 at night.
And does he have any employees?
I helped him quite a bit. Our son helps him. He's got a couple of other guys that help him on the side, depending on what he has projects that are going on.
How frequently does your son assist the defendant with his business?
In the summer times, like the older he's gotten, the more he wants to work. He wants to earn money. He's looking to buy a car. He worked whenever he could based on football practices or, hanging out with his buddies.
And does the defendant...
That question, whose lawn was he doing after dark? I think after dark he went from lawn care to trimming bushes.
And pay Kelvin, your son, for the work?
He says to Kelvin Kelvin has done a great job of keeping track of his hours this summer. But when I asked Kelvin if dad is actually paying him, he says,
Objection, hearsay.
Okay.
Ms. Kloosterman, do you know one way or the other if in fact Kelvin has received compensation?
I do not.
And
he has not.
Ms. Kloosterman, does that concern you that you don't know about the compensation?
It does, because I'm trying to teach all of our kids, but Kelvin right now, because this is the age he's at, work ethic. And I have grown up with a very strong work ethic, and it's important for me to teach that to my children. And when I know that he's working for Kevin, there's not a specific, like, okay, I'm going to give you every Friday, I'm going to pay you for your previous week's work. There's times where, like, I know that Kevin would give Kelvin just $100 and say, here's for working this week. I'm trying to instill this system for my son for future of, like, you work hard, you do your job, you get rewarded, and that's in a paycheck. And so I was told by Kevin that there's a savings account somewhere out there that money has been put in for Kelvin, but I have yet to see. Kelvin has no idea about the savings account. I have no idea what balance is on the savings account. I just want to make sure that our son, he's putting in the work. He's a hard worker. I want to make sure that he sees the benefits of working. That's my concern, is that I'm trying to teach him strong work ethic, and it seems not easy to do right now with that.
And from your observations, is your son able to balance participation with the defendant's business with his obligations related to school, extracurriculars, that sort of thing?
Yeah, for the most part. There have been times where he doesn't want to work, and he has asked me to talk to Kevin about letting him have a day off so he can go golfing with his buddies and that sort of thing. He never wants to disappoint his dad. So.
And Ms. Kloosterman, you previously testified that the defendant's busy season includes the months of May, June, July, and August. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ms. Kloosterman, what sort of arrangements did the defendant make for the children during his busy season this year after the temporary order was in place?
On the weeks that he had the kids, his mom would stay with them, or they would be left at his parents' house, or he would call on a mutual friend, Gracie, to watch the kids or the girls for multiple days.
And Ms. Kloosterman, during the months of June, July, and August, are you able to provide care and supervision to the children during the day?
Absolutely.
Now, Ms. Kloosterman, over the course of our representation, you and I have discussed what's commonly referred to as the best interest factors. I'm going to ask you some questions under those factors now, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, Ms. Kloosterman, factor A of the best interest factors involves the love, affection, and emotional ties that exist between the children and the parties. I'm going to focus on that first here. Ms. Kloosterman, how do you express love and affection toward your children?
We're a very affectionate family. Hugging, cuddling, words of encouragement. There's not a day that goes by that I don't text my kids, whether they're with me or whether they're not, asking how their day's going, checking in on, whatever have you.
Someone's read the 5 love languages.
Asking them about their athletic events or homework, or Kelsey, who she played with at recess today. I think just showing that I am an ever-present person in their lives on a daily basis is the way that we have our connection.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do your children reciprocate love and affection towards you?
Yes, absolutely.
How do they reciprocate love and affection towards you?
Saying I love you, Mom, text messages back, asking me how my day is, saying thank you for this and that, reciprocating hugs, wanting to cuddle. Can we have some, mommy and me time? Can we, sit and watch a movie tonight? Can we play a game? Like, just interacting in both of our lives and wanting me to be a part of their lives.
Ms. Kloosterman, do your children ever come to you for help with a problem?
Absolutely, all the time.
Can you give a specific example?
Sure. Just last week, Kelvin was, or probably 2 weeks ago now, Kelvin was struggling with homecoming and which girl he wanted to go with to homecoming. And, he asks me, Mom, what do I think? How do I navigate this situation? We sat down, we talked about it. I felt very privileged that he came to me with a girlfriend issue. He's 15, right? But we have a close connection that way. Callie asks me all the time for help with homework or navigating friend situations at school. Kelsey, a couple weeks ago, texted me, called me on Kevin's parenting week and said she had a field trip the next day.
Hearsay.
Okay.
I know it's hard not to.
It is.
Agreed. Sustained, agreed, whatever.
Understood. Ms. Kloosterman, would you say that the children come to you with their problems more than, less than, or in an equal amount as to when they come to defendant with their problems?
More than.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do your children ever share exciting news with you, such as a good grade on a test or a sporting victory?
Absolutely.
Can you give an example?
Yep. Callie, when she made chamber choir, she texted me right away, and when she found out that she made the list. Calvin texted me, actually, I was there, came up to me at the football game Friday night right after when he had told me that he asked Kason to be his girlfriend. He was super excited to share that information with me.
Objection, strike, hearsay. I mean, we can't be talking about what the kids have said.
Oh, okay.
I understand.
Correct. And to assure everyone, I will be the in-camera interview scheduled, so that's when I'll be hearing from the minors.
So
I understand. I think I agree it was hearsay, Your Honor, and I think it's difficult, obviously, for lay people to understand that. We'll work on it. Ms. Kloosterman, would you say that your children share exciting news with you more than, less than, or equal amount as the defendant?
More than.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do the children ever come to you when they're sick or injured?
Yes.
Can you give an example?
They call me when they're sick at school and ask them if they need to be picked up.
Would you say that the children come to you when they are sick or injured more than, less than, or in an equal amount as when they come to the defendant?
More than.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do your children ever give you gifts?
Yes.
Can you give an example of a gift your children have given to you?
Yes. For Mother's Day, they were super excited. They gave me a Lululemon bag. They know that that's my love language. I probably instilled that in my children, but
he has his own lawn mowing and apparently bush trimming business. And Lululemon is a terrible love language.
It is one of the things that we show, whether it's a handmade gift or a purchase gift or something, we show our love very much that way. And the kids are very prideful when they can, give me a gift for birthday or Christmas or what have you.
And how did you respond to that gift?
Very appreciative, loving, and very thankful.
Ms. Kloosterman, on December 22nd, 2021, did one of your children give the defendant a gift?
Yes.
What was the gift?
It was a mug.
And how did the defendant respond to that gift?
To me, he said, why do I need another mug? We have tons of mugs. I would rather have the money.
How did the defendant respond in front of the children?
Not very grateful.
Was the child upset after this incident?
Yes.
Did you comfort the child?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Kloosterman, have you ever heard the defendant call the children inappropriate names?
Yes.
What sort of names have you heard the defendant call the children?
Little shit, punk, jerk, weird, asshole.
Have you ever asked the defendant not to call the children those sorts of names?
Multiple times on multiple occasions.
They say,
and what was the defendant's response in such regard?
Most of the time they can handle it. It's no big deal.
Did the defendant's use of those names continue after you confronted him about it?
Yes.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do you ever call the children names such as little shit or punk or weird?
No.
Ms. Kloosterman, on October 26, 2018, did the defendant call one of your children weird?
Yes.
Was the child upset by this?
Yes, she was.
And did you talk to the defendant about this situation?
I did.
How did the defendant respond?
He said it was no big deal.
And Ms. Kloosterman, does defendant's behavior in this regard cause you any concerns?
It does. I feel like he does not take the kids' response to these seriously. He's not in tune with how these words that he says to the kids and in front of the kids, how it truly affects their well-being or their emotional state.
Now, Ms. Kloosterman, I'm going to move to factor B of the best interest factors, which involves the capacity and disposition of the parties to give the children love, affection, and guidance, and continue the education and raising of the child in her religion. So we're going to discuss that now, okay?
Yep.
All right, Ms. Kloosterman, what grade is Calvin currently in?
Calvin is in 10th grade.
And what school does he currently attend?
Traverse City Central.
What grade is Kelsey in?
5th grade.
And what school does Kelsey attend?
Eastern Elementary,
What grade is Callie in?
8th grade,
And what school does she attend?
East Middle School.
I knew they
What
didn't
sort of
do it
grades does
eventually.
Calvin earn in school?
A's and B's.
And what sort of grades does Kelsey earn in school?
It's a little different in elementary school, satisfactory most of the time. She struggles a little bit with reading and reading comprehension.
What sort of grades does Callie earn in school?
A's and B's.
Do any of your children have like a individualized education plan or other form of special assistance?
Kelsey does with her reading and reading comprehension. She has it's like a title tutor.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you
Yeah,
just said?
she has a tutor at school at her pullout for intervention.
And Miss Kloosterman, who was involved in getting Callie that tutor?
Kelsey,
excuse me. You guys have a lot of K names.
Yep, I was.
Was the defendant involved?
No.
Miss Kloosterman, do you help the children with their homework?
Absolutely.
How do you help the children with your homework?
We sit and do it after school. We have a routine that needs to get done. Whether it's helping them study for a test, looking over their homework once it's done, helping them make flashcards, any sort of typical studying techniques, obviously different based on which child it is.
Ms. Kloosterman, do you believe your employment as an educator gives you skills that assist in this regard?
Absolutely.
Can you explain your answer?
Sure. I feel like being a teacher myself, I know how kids learn best. I know especially how each of my children learn best. I know that Kelsey is a very hands-on learner. I know that Calvin does best when he sees it and hears it at the same time. And I know that Callie is a fantastic reader. She is very analytical in her thinking. Knowing these things, I can help them study, learn. Being a teacher, I know how important it is for their education, and I truly believe they value my belief in that. And I think that being a teacher is very important because education is so important for their well-being.
Ms. Kloosterman, do the children contact you for help with their homework during defendant's parenting time?
Yes, they do.
What time of the day or night do they contact you for help while they're with the defendant?
It can be any time after school. There's been a couple instances after a hockey practice. Callie contacted me, texted me, said, "Mom, I really need to."
And remember,
hearsay.
Sorry. Yep. She texted me asking for help to FaceTime, and she didn't want to be loud. Is that hearsay? Okay.
I know it's hard. It's hard. So I think you answered the question. Okay. We're good. Ms. Kloosterman, would you say the children come to you for help with homework more than, less than, or in an equal amount as when they come to the defendant for help with homework?
More than.
Ms. Kloosterman, have the children or any of your children ever gotten in trouble at school?
Yes.
What child has gotten in trouble at school?
Kelvin has.
And can you explain why he got in trouble at school?
Yes, he was flipping his lanyard and he flicked a girl in the butt. And so I got a phone call.
And when did this situation occur?
It was the spring of 2021, I believe. He was in 8th grade. So spring of 2020.
And was there a meeting with the principal or educator at the school?
Yeah. Emails went back and forth between the principal and myself. And I was called in for a parent meeting I requested a parent meeting to ask about the incident. Knowing as I was an educator, I didn't want anything to be on a permanent record. I wanted to make sure things were clear. I wanted to see the video, that sort of thing.
And did the defendant attend the meeting with you?
He did not.
Why did the defendant not attend the meeting?
I have no idea. I asked him if he wanted to, and he said he had no interest in attending.
Did the defendant call the meeting with the principal a waste of time?
Yes, he did.
Did he call the meeting with the principal stupid?
Yes, he did.
Ms. Kloosterman, do your children require back to school shopping prior to the start of an academic year?
Yes, they do.
Do you take the children back to school shopping, or does the defendant take the children?
I take them back to school shopping.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do you attend the children's parent-teacher conferences?
I do.
Have you ever missed a parent-teacher conference?
There was one time I did. I was actually giving my own parent-teacher conferences for my own students in my classroom. And I had set up Kelvin's parent-teacher conference with his teacher for Kevin to attend. And Kevin said he is not coming and not going. So I had to figure it out on my own. So I ended up then, after my students' parent-teacher conferences, asking the other teacher to stay late so that we could have our conference regarding Kelvin, because Kevin would not come.
So does the defendant typically attend the children's parent-teacher conference?
He has never been to a parent-teacher conference.
Ms. Kloosterman, in your experience as an educator, is it important for parents to attend these conferences?
Absolutely. I think it's important for the parents and the teachers to have a great working relationship and to ensure the success of the children.
And Ms. Kloosterman, if one of your children has to miss school for like a dentist appointment or they're sick, who notifies the school of your child's absence? You or the defendant?
It has been me. However, last week, I know when Calvin was out, Kevin is the one who did call school to excuse him.
And Ms. Kloosterman, have you ever volunteered at a class party or field trip in connection with the children's school?
Multiple times.
And can you give an example?
Yep, I was the room mom for Kelsey's class the last 2 years. I attend field trips. I attend PTO events. Very hands-on in all of their classrooms.
Has the defendant ever volunteered in connection with the children's school, like a field trip, class party?
Nope.
On June 7th, 2023, did Calvin fail 2 exams?
Yes, he did.
Was Calvin in your care during that week or in the care of defendant?
He was in Kevin's care that week.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do you have any parental restrictions on your children's cell phones?
Yes, I have.
What restrictions do you have?
Screen time, content restrictions for like inappropriate content, explicit stuff, age appropriate for them.
Can you explain why you have
Yes.
those restrictions?
It's to keep our children safe, to ensure that they are not doing anything they shouldn't be doing, or involuntarily accessing things that they shouldn't see, trying to protect our children.
And have those restrictions remained on your children's cell phones while in the care of the defendant?
They stay on the girls' cell phones, yes. Kevin requested, since he was paying Kelvin's phone bill, that the restrictions be taken off of Kelvin's phone.
And did you have a conversation with the defendant about the removal of the restrictions on Calvin's phone?
Absolutely. I was upset. He told me Kelvin is 15. He does not need restrictions on his phone. I, in turn, used that same argument. He does need restrictions on his phone because he's 15.
And did you ask the defendant to replace the restrictions?
I did.
Were the restrictions replaced?
No.
Ms. Kloosterman, what do you teach your daughters in regard to body image or body positivity, for lack of a better term?
I think it's really important to have positive body image, especially in today's world. It's hard with all of these incoming factors throwing at them through social media and sort of things like that. So I try to limit as best as I can and really encourage positive self-talk, positive body image. I think as women, that is something that can very easily be discriminated, and we are looked at as objects rather than people.
And Ms. Kloosterman, what do you teach your son in regard to relationships with women?
Respect being number one, that there's this sense of mutual respect that needs to happen, that you treat them great. You don't talk down to them. Respect is so big for me. And I think that is so important with all of our children, to teach them respect.
And does the defendant reinforce and solidify your teachings to your son in regards to respecting women?
No, he does not.
And can you explain your answer?
Yes, I think it's evident in the way that Kevin talks to me in front of the children that he does not respect me. I think the way that Kevin has talked to our son about women is inappropriate. Sun's out, buns out every time they go past the volleyball courts. He talks to him or participates in locker room type conversations about, who are the hot hockey moms on the team, talking about how there's going to be
with his 15-year-old son,
like girls are going to want to come after Kelvin because he's so good at sports. I think as a mom, I want our son to respect women. And many times I feel like in Kevin's presence, he is taught to objectify women.
Ms. Kloosterman, have you and the defendant raised your children in any specific religion?
Yes.
What religion have you brought the children up in?
Christian religion.
And why did you and the defendant decide to raise the children Christian?
Kevin and I were both brought up in a Christian home and attended church regularly, and we saw the benefits in our lives as growing up. I knew that I wanted to instill those beliefs and that system in our children. And, when Kevin and I got married, he felt the same way. And we've been doing that as part of their lives ever since.
What benefits do you think the children receive from Christianity?
Mm-hmm. I think they learn how to treat others. They learn that there's a power out there bigger than themselves, that, it's not about them. It gives them a sense of, there's this higher being in control, and that something to cling to in the good times and the bad times.
As a part of your marriage, did you as a family attend church on Sundays?
Yes, whenever possible.
And since the temporary order, have you continued to take the children to church on Sundays?
Yes, whenever I can.
Ms. Kloosterman, has the defendant continued to take the children to church on Sundays during his parenting time?
He has not.
Mecca Foundation, and or she would only know this due to hearsay. So.
Nope, I go to the same church.
Yeah, so.
All will be revealed.
Ms. Kloosterman, how do you know that the defendant doesn't take the children to church on the Sundays he has the kids?
Because he is not there and I am.
Ms. Kloosterman, can I have you watch what I have labeled as Plaintiff's Exhibit 15? Your Honor, I believe I delivered a flash drive to the court with it. Hopefully that made its way to you.
Are you asking me to pull it up on there?
No, I can share my screen. I just wanted to make sure that you had a copy of it.
They emailed me about the flash drive, correct?
Okay, correct.
It's not something, just so we're clear, I think you know this process, but I don't review any of the exhibits before trial, so I have not viewed it, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you had it. And Your Honor, may I share my screen?
Yeah, one thing I want to go over before we get into the videos, though, is what's the context for the videos?
The context of the video would be a discussion between the parties about the children's attendance at church.
Okay, it's not the children, in other words, right?
No.
Okay.
There's no children in this video.
Thank you. We can play it. Do you want it to, are you asking to have it admitted?
Well, I guess I need to play it for her first in order to ask her if she recognizes it. Ms. Kloosterman, I'm going to ask you to watch a video that I've labeled as Plaintiff's Exhibit 15, okay?
Okay.
Can we all see this? I never know.
Yes,
okay.
I can.
Thank you.
The church is a waste of fun. Stupid.
Okay. Good to know that you want to raise our kids in a non-Christian home.
No better. What about them do that thing? And I didn't say that, so.
You just did. You don't know. You said church is a waste of time.
Ms. Kloosterman, can you explain kind of what Exhibit 15 is?
Yep. Kevin and I are having a conversation. This was after our separation, and I was continuing to bring the kids to church. the kids like going to church, and they had, sorry, I know that's hearsay. I encouraged him to also take the kids to church.
And who's the male voice in the video?
Kevin.
Who's the female voice?
Me.
Did you film Plaintiff Exhibit 15?
I did.
And when did you film it?
May 26th of 2023.
And is Plaintiff's Exhibit an accurate reflection of your conversation with the defendant at that time?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer Plaintiff's Exhibit 15 into evidence.
Any objection?
I mean, my objection would be that it's not the complete conversation. It's taken completely out of context. It's a couple minutes. It's not even a couple minutes. It's a couple second soundbite. It's not demonstrative of the entire conversation. I believe that we would need the entire conversation.
Okay. May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure.
To that point, I would say
a lot of states are what are called one-party recording states, which means only one of the individuals has to be aware of the recording, and that one individual can be the one who is doing the recording. I am not sure specifically if Michigan is a one-party recording state or not. I don't know what rules are. Yeah, one party consent state. So yeah, I don't know if Michigan is or not. I don't know if there were other factors involved to getting, that admitted. I'm not sure. But I do know very often only one party has to know about it.
that goes more towards weight of the evidence rather than its admissibility. I believe my client has laid a foundation that she was the one that filmed this, that it was an accurate reflection of that portion of the conversation on May 26, 2023. And again, I'd say that objection goes to weight, not admissibility of the evidence.
Probably still is then.
Your Honor, if I may, Rule 106 relates to rule of completeness, and it specifically addresses a recorded statement or part thereof. An adverse party, which would be me in this situation, may require the introduction at the time of any other writing or recorded statement, which ought to be considered fairness, which ought in fairness to be considered contemporaneously therewith. I mean, obviously, we don't have the complete conversation because she recorded a few seconds of what is clearly a longer conversation. So we don't have a complete conversation here.
And again, Your Honor, I would say that it doesn't reflect that these are the statements that were made at this time.
So the lawyer's argument is it shouldn't be allowed to be admitted because it's not the entire conversation. But if you want to go that route, where does the beginning of a conversation begin and the end of it end? Because you could argue, well, you don't have the statements that precluded that from a week ago, so you can't admit that one piece now. It's a difficult argument to make. I think. I might be absolutely wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my logic on that.
I think the court can interpret the statements on the record as they were stated. I don't think that reflects or is relevant to the rest of the conversation.
I mean, I'll let Ms. Schmelzer voir dire your client about. I mean, it's pretty common for people to only introduce the things that benefit them. I understand that that's not the fairness, but I don't know that Ms. Schmelzer has any other context to suggest that this conversation was longer than that. You're guessing that it is. I don't know. How would I know if this conversation was longer than that?
He puts
How
a
can you
lot
tell
of
me that
thought.
this conversation was longer than these few seconds? People have conversations that are that long all the time. Like in other words, I think this rule of evidence 106 is suggesting that that there's more evidence to present and that in this context, Ms. Lentz is not presenting it unfairly. And I'm not so sure that that's true.
I mean, Your Honor, it's the context, it's the length of time of the video, it's that the actual words being spoken are coming out of the blue. I think the court, I mean, can clearly infer that there was something else being said before and something after. I mean, I even heard in that conversation, I just had a few seconds to listen to it, but towards the end, Mr. Kloosterman said, "That's not what I'm saying." And then he was cut off.
And we can go to that part. I don't think that was at the end of the conversation, but and I think the gist of this is, like you said, people play videos all the time that benefit them. And I think it's Your Honor's decision to decide what sort of weight to give to that evidence.
Oh, well, I guess I'll just do it if Ms. Schmeltzer's not going to. Ms. Kloosterman, what's the context for this conversation? Was this a longer conversation, or where are we at on this? I'll voir dire you.
Yeah, of course.
I absolutely love that backhand he just delivered to that defense attorney. That was truly a special moment.
From what I recall, it was a longer conversation, but not about the church part. That was something that came up as we were discussing other issues and things that were going on at this time in our lives.
Does this soundbite, I mean, the whole other part is she can just testify as to what happened. So I don't really know, I know in modern times, everything we want to be recorded, but we can still trust people under oath. So anyway, is this, how long was this conversation, would you say, when we're talking about the church issue?
Multiple, I don't know, few seconds. This isn't the first time where he's told me that church is a waste of time since our separation.
I don't trust people under oath.
I'm trying to look at, was this a longer conversation you were having?
No.
That was recorded?
Not about church, no.
Ms. Schmeltzer, do you have any questions for her then on this?
I do not, Your Honor.
I think that I'm going to allow, I think that the objection is fair in terms of whether we can figure out if there's a longer context. I would agree that generally speaking, Ms. Schmeltzer is correct that we do want a full record and not just to pull things out. But I think we figured out right now that this is the context. So I can't require them to produce anything more than what actually occurred. So over objection, exhibit 15 submitted. And again, I can weigh it, however, this, I think it's admissible. Whether it has any weight is something I'll decide in light of everything. It's admitted.
Ms. Kloosterman, do the defendant's comments regarding church concern you?
Absolutely.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. Well, when we got married and had children, we had agreed that we would raise our children in a Christian home with Christian values and Christian morals. And we have done that up until this point. And it is concerning to me that all of a sudden he's taking a 180 twist on this. And
well, that was before he diddled your boss.
And I don't know if I don't want to do hearsay, but my kids have noticed.
Ms. Kloosterman, have your children historically participated in Vacation Bible School?
Yes, we all have.
Who facilitated the children's involvement in Vacation Bible School?
I have.
And did you facilitate the children's involvement in Vacation Bible School this year?
I do. I have.
And Ms. Kloosterman, what methods of discipline do you use for the children when they misbehave?
I am a friend.
Her boss at a Christian school, mind you.
Firm believer in the love and logic and, talking things out and giving the kids boundaries and expectations. And if they, they screw up like all of us do and like kids do, I, firmly believe that there's consequences, good and bad, for what they do. And I think it's important for them to see that that can be done in a loving, consistent, productive way.
Ms. Klusman, I'm not familiar. What is Love and Logic? Is that like a parenting?
It's like a parenting thing. Yeah, there's parenting classes out there. There's books on it. I have found it, not that I follow it, to the T, but it's just something that I learned early on in my parenting and have found it helpful. A lot of things also carry over to like being a teacher in a classroom and setting expectations and boundaries and, just being the consistency so the kids understand what the expectations are is important in their growth.
What methods of discipline does the defendant use for the children?
He is usually pretty quiet and all of a sudden yells, screams, swears like at the kids.
Ms. Klusman, I'm going to ask you to watch Plaintiff's Exhibit 2.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. Your Honor, there is children aren't seen in this video. There's noise. I don't know if that impacts the ability for you to have it on YouTube.
That's not entirely my concern. The concern is whether they're making statements, like hearsay statements. I don't want any statements from the kids unless you're gonna meet some sort of exception because I'll be meeting with them and it's unnecessary. So
Understood, Your Honor.
If you have records you don't want, an example would be if we're pulling up school records and there's a social security number or something, I don't want that on YouTube for these people's sake.
Understand, Your Honor.
So,
all right, Ms. Klusman, I'm gonna have you watch Plaintiff's Exhibit 2.
Prior to, I'm gonna object preliminarily prior to that. My concern is if the children are making statements. I reviewed this briefly yesterday. Is there an opportunity to take a quick pause so that I can review it prior to it being displayed to the court and make sure that there aren't those concerns about children making statements?
I would prefer that. That's why I typically don't have them played and then we do it this way. So I guess, yeah, let's go off the record. And how many videos in total do we have?
Can I reference my notes and for a second?
I'm not going to hold you to it, I guess.
And additionally, my objection is also to foundation preliminarily because we don't have a time, context, date, whenever this occurred.
That's the way I usually provide a foundation first and then we'll watch the video. So
I don't care. I don't know how to ask her those questions without showing her what it is.
Well, you can ask her, did you take a video on this date and time and what is it? And then,
which other, if we're going to take a break, which other videos are you intending to present to this court?
That's why I asked, because the reality is if we can just get through and see what videos we have a problem with in terms of admissibility, then we can narrow down the scope of what our problems are. Because if we don't have any objections, then we can just move through these. But let's go. I do want to go.
Okay, so
I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to put statements on the record that you want in case you file an objection later. Are we good with trying to figure out how many videos there are and if we can just narrow this down?
Yes.
All right, you guys. So first couple of hours, we made it through it. And that was just a little warm up. I told you not a whole lot spicy happens. There were a couple little moments, but the real spicy stuff is coming. So now I've got to delete everything that I've edited so far and edit the next batch. So be prepared. Tomorrow we will open with something fun and then we'll get right into it. I will oh, I love you guys. Seriously. You guys are just amazing. You really are. I just thank you guys so much for coming out and doing this with me. Like I said, I was downloading this for days, like watching it and downloading it, and so I was really invested in this even before you guys had seen it. And for those of you who haven't seen the clips on Mike's stream, stick around because it gets fun. There is a lot of, these kind of moments. So, but yes, thank you guys so much for coming out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do all those fun free to you YouTube things. And if you guys do want to support the content, support the channel, despite YouTube taking away my monetization, the Cash App and the PayPal tip jar are in the community or about tab, one of the two. And I'm probably going to put the Cash App in the description of this one, along with a link to Mike's stream where he did the clips on these as well, for those of you who do want to kind of race ahead, because the videos are gone. I have all the copies though. Ha ha ha. Anyways, thank you guys. You guys are amazing. I love you all so much. Much love. And I will see you again soon. Very, very soon.